Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Pontiac City Council meeting. We are required to have a mayor or a deputy mayor present. And there he is in the flesh. This meeting of your Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order at 6 o'clock p.m. This is our 114th session of the Pontiac City Council on Thursday, November 2nd. Normally we wouldn't meet on a Thursday, but this year Tuesday was Halloween, and so that way Pontiac families could enjoy that without having to be crowded out by a city council meeting. We shifted it this week. All right, with that, we give the floor to Councilman Parker to introduce this evening's invocation.
Good afternoon, everybody. It seems like the people that I invited is not here, so let us pray. And God, we come again this day giving you thanks. We thank you for your goodness, your grace, your mercy, and your love. We ask now, dear Lord, that you would guide our thoughts and our hearts as we discuss the business of this city of Pontiac. Lord God, we know that you are guiding us, and we pray that you would continue to knit us together, Lord God, in understanding of empathy and compassion. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen, and thank God.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're now at the time of our meeting each week where we hold a moment of silence in our community for those that we've said goodbye to, and in this instance, both individuals are someone who we should not be saying goodbye to, and it's far too soon. Desiree Childs, just 16 years old, was murdered on Johnson Street near Menominee, walking with her friend, just 16 years old. And Sequence Wright, another young woman, early in the morning on Saturday was crossing University Drive near Kenilworth and was hit by a driver, killed, and that driver did not stop. They are still looking for information on who may have been driving that vehicle, so please contact Crime Stoppers if you may have any information regarding the culprit or information about the incident. Please join us for a moment of silence as we remember the life cut short far too soon of both Desiree Childs and Sequence Wright. Thank you. Roll call of council members. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington.
Present.
Goodman.
Here.
James.
Here.
McGinnis.
Present.
Nicholson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Rutherford. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
All members present and voting, and quorum being established. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Rutherford, that we approve this evening's agenda. Any discussion, corrections, amendments? Hearing none, roll call on adoption and approval of the agenda. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington.
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Is there a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker. In this evening's consent agenda are 5 items. The minutes of the October 23rd Parks, Recreation, and Public Works Subcommittee of the Pontiac City Council. The City Council meeting minutes from October 24th. A resolution approving Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance renewal with Meadowbrook Insurance Agency, routine and happens on an annual basis. Next is a resolution recognizing November as Native American Heritage Month in Pontiac, and a resolution recognizing November as National Adoption Month in Pontiac. Those are the 5 items on the consent agenda, and at any time a city council member can pull off an item if it needs to be debated further. With that, roll call adoption of the consent agenda. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The consent agenda is approved, and those 5 items, the 2 sets of meeting minutes and the 3 resolutions, are hereby adopted. We're now at recognition of elected officials, where we extend the courtesy if there are any of our fellow elected officials serving the city of Pontiac currently that wish to address the people. Now's an opportunity. We are joined by the chair, the illustrious chair of the Pontiac Charter Revision Commission, Tamika Ramsey, if you'd like to address the community.
Good evening. So I just wanted to let people know that we have added additional dates to our meetings. Our goal is to wrap up the charter revision by the end of this year. And so that means that we will be meeting this Saturday. We will meet every other Thursday, and we are adding some additional Saturdays. I will be getting with the president to be scheduled for a special presentation so that we can talk about some of the changes that we have made, but our goal is to have changes made and completed so that we can start doing education and outreach to the community. We have done some upgrades with the council, the mayor, though we have kept a strong mayor form of government, but also looking at how to put some checks and balances in place with ombudsman and things like that, so that we're talking about a transition period and what does that legally look like. So those type of things we are trying to put into the charter to make sure that we have a functioning government no matter who is running it. So we are meeting this Saturday, November 4th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then our next meeting will be the following Thursday here in City Council chambers at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, and we do welcome when it works for the Charter Revision Commission's timeline when those special presentations should best happen. Thank you. Other requests to speak during recognition of elected officials? Hearing nothing further, we are now at agenda address, an opportunity on our regular agenda routine for community members to address items on the agenda prior to City Council rendering their verdicts. So, Pro Tem Carrington, any requests today?
Yes, President McGinnis. Ms. Renee Beckley.
This number 10 about Mark Twain School. You need to be seeing your vote on that.
Is the microphone on?
I'm not sure.
We're going to help you.
Okay, can I go back? All right.
Yep.
I'm speaking on number 10. You need to rescind your vote on Mark Twain School. So some of you don't live there. Though William possibly lives there, maybe on Carr Street. But you're doing harm to everybody else. We don't want the noise. We don't want the plant. We stated, we don't clearly. We had a school teacher tell you, clearly we do not want that in our neighborhood. But you still voted for it, especially you, Michael Goodman. You need to rescind your vote. We have to live with that. For years to come, you're going to regret your decision because what you did to our neighborhood. We don't want industry in our neighborhood. I don't know if you have a deal with the person already, something already planned out, because it seems like you're going around the city doing the same thing, not listening to the residents. That comes back to bite. And I don't understand it. It has no reason, no logic to put a plant in a neighborhood surrounded by houses. There's no profit. I don't even know why the company wants to move there. Why would you want to leave Troy, the #1 place for business in Michigan, where that's the reading of it? Why? It does something is not right. Something's not right about this council. Something's not right about that deal. Don't come to our neighborhood with that. We don't want it. Do we have to sue the company or do we have to sue you? Make that choice. So, you have a chance now. Please rescind that vote. I'm asking you, not just for me. I know you don't like me, but for my neighbors. If you don't care about anybody else, remember my neighbors. We vote, and we vote live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beckley. Mr. Robert Bass.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Bass, President, Assistant District Council. I wasn't able to be here last week, but I did hear about the meeting, and I am here to address number 10. I disagree with that organization coming in because of the way that it was delivered. Now, I was primarily looking at development, and that's what we do. But when I read and saw the notice of them bringing in a partner as a CDC to do what we do, I run one of the most prolific organizations this city's ever put together. And it's going to be defiled by bringing in another citizen district council or a CDC, a community development corporation, which is going to start a 501c3 and create a citizen district council that does the same delivery as us to economically depressed communities, and that's what we do. So bottom line is, our objective was to recreate all of the CDCs in all 7 districts so that we'd have a coordinating council which would be the advocates for the community. So with this and them saying that they're going to create wraparound services is only going to take away from the services that's already not being adequately dispensed in this community. Same way with the city and all the ones that say they're doing services to stop this, to stop the homelessness, to stop those, to help those that's getting out of prison. All of these things that we say we're going to do have not been done since the 1970s. They tried, they did different things, but they never worked on a long-term basis. And that's my time. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Dr. Deidre Waterman.
Good evening. I also come to speak to number 10. That is the same thing that a couple of the other speakers did address this evening. I have, as part of what I'm doing, post-mayor, Spirit of Pontiac initiative, is to make sure we have the help and be a consultant to neighborhood groups for the things that they want to achieve and make them stronger. And so District 6 has been, I think, disrespected in the fact that they have so many people who've come to say, do not change the flavor of our neighborhood. Pontiac Knolls is a well-established, well-respected neighborhood in the city. And when you have 142 people that say, don't do that, don't change us from R1 to commercial, that will change the flavor. And that, by the rules of planning, is supposed to be one of the things that you do not do. So somehow that was disregarded. I did go to speak to Planning Commission yesterday because it started there. And I had heard that a couple of people at Planning who had voted for that and passed it along to you for your vote didn't know that there were that many people who had been not in favor of it in the area. Now, there are 3 of you who voted against it, for it. Apparently, the protest petition that was filed with the clerk was totally disregarded, which is another disrespect. So I want you to know that, Council, because that should have been considered. It would have been a different kind of vote. But it's also important. I know you, Councilman Carrington, voted against it. But, you know, in my history in the city of Pontiac, generally, other council people will listen to the person whose district this is being done, and then we'll vote for it. So you got a bigger problem. Now you can't even get people on your council to respect you enough in your own district to vote for what you think is right for your district. So that's something, you know, that is something that is a consideration for you, that your fellow council people don't respect you enough or have confidence in what you think should be in your district. So that's a problem as well.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Mr. Paul Wilson.
I'm here to address number 10 resolution. to Garland Doyle, City of Pontiac, City Clerk, to William Carrington, District 6 City Councilman, and copies sent to the mayor, to the president of the City Council, and to members of the council. Official complaint, handling of protest petitions, list provided by petition submittal requirements. As stated in my comments and addressed to the City Council on October the 17th and again on October the 24th, I am registering a formal complaint against the City Clerk for failure to formally comply, to formally reply to the list of names and signatures submitted under Section 6.806 protest petition on behalf of the citizens of Pontiac Knolls subdivision. I pointed out the fact that some of the addresses for signatures on the petition listed were missing and are different from those provided by the city clerk's office. Furthermore, some of the addresses on the city list were not part of Pontiac Knolls subdivision. Some did not live in the city of Pontiac, neither did some of the addresses appear for the state of Michigan. In the city clerk's office rush to judgment, they did not do due diligence in investigating the names and addresses, nor did I get a formal response to the protest petition on behalf of the citizens that submitted 140 signed signatures for this petition. A copy of this formal complaint on behalf of the 130 plus citizens who signed those petitions should reach your office by the end of this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Chuck Johnson, what item?
I don't have too much argument concerning this item, but I'm concerned, I guess I should have waited until it was read by the council, but is this the same, and you can answer this anytime, is this the same resolution that would pertain to what we would call a contract compliance officer that would go around and watch the construction sites and make notes of what's going on as it relates to the contracts and so forth? That was my concern. It's on the document number 2. And I may be getting ahead of myself, but I guess I should have waited to hear what it was all about. But I know that if it's what I think it is, it's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you for flagging that question. We'll work to get some answers for you and the council and the whole community for that first reading.
Ms. Darlene Clark.
Hi there, I'm Darlene Clark. Once again, speaking as a resident, I'm addressing item number 10 on your agenda. Council, I'm speaking to the residents and not the council. These are the questions that the residents have. First and foremost, as has been put very clearly by the former mayor and other members, the member that's in the neighborhood that we're speaking on, number 10, Linda Vista, the concern with the residents that, Mr. Carrington, that is your district. Council represent each district, District 5, 4, 6, all the way up to District 1. You guys represent your own individual district. You speak for the people and what the people has to say. That is your council as a job. The mayor has no input in what the people has to say to direct to their people. But where the problem came in, and I say this very sincerely, not only have you showed your residents of the city of Pontiac and Oakland County, you actually have showed the world who listen to these tapes and who take very serious of what's the actions that's been going on. You have showed that, Mr. Carrington, your district, you do not speak for them. The other 4 people that voted against this project, Linda Vista project, spoke for you. Mr. Carrington, that took away the trust and the reputation It took away so much of faith that they had, that District 6 had in you, that it breaks the heart of District 6 to know that you can do that you turn over that rim. You turn over a rim to District 1, she doesn't even take care of her own district. She does not even address the complaints and the concerns of other people. District 2, he's trying. I got to give him, with due respect, Mr. Nicholson is trying to do his best within this district. Mr. Goodman, you're young, so I can understand some of the things in your view, and so do the people understand that. But you, Mr. McGinley, who is the president, you should have had even withdraw yourself to discuss this at a later date, and you didn't.
Well, thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Gloria Miller.
I, too, want to speak in regards to last week's meeting. Even though it's not my district, of all the years I've come to the council, I've never seen anything quite like it in my life. What people out in the audience, what you don't see, which is what I'm going to tell you what I saw, there were people that were hurt. They were sad. They just couldn't believe that no one listened to them. And they felt betrayed. That's what a word I heard out in the hall so much, betrayed. Betrayed. And I would like to know how in the heck you guys think y'all gonna get that back. You put a project in your neighborhood that you didn't support, but they did. Who gives them the right to tell you what to do in your district when your people say they don't want it? I never seen that before. I never seen that before. And I'm just gonna have to say, you know, and I'll get into my next speaking on that. You know, when people come at you personally, that makes me worse. I come back, I keep coming back. As long as you standing on truth, I can stand here. I come down here with nothing but truth. I have no agenda. Love my neighbors, but I know bull when I see it and I call it out. I've been like that all my life. And the things that this council is doing and this administration is doing, it's a dictatorship. I thought about it one night. It's dictatorship. They do what they want to do. They come down with the agendas already planned. It's already, you don't even need to come down. It's already done. It's done. They don't listen to you. Everything already set in stone. I have never seen a council or the administration doing what they're doing to the citizens of Pontiac. And I'm asking all the people in the city of Pontiac, pay attention to what's going on. We got MDOT coming down 59 now. They want to take a lane. And I get into that to you, Mr. McGinnis, because I hope that ain't true. Because, you know, I tell you, Pontiac is small. I hear it's because maybe Webster wanted to put a school over there, so they want to use that for a bus stop. So they take one of the lanes. You can't hide anything in citizens of Pontiac. Why in the world would they want to take a lane from 59 when you don't even have enough lanes? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That concludes agenda address.
Thank you. Clerk Doyle?
Thank you, Mr. President, for this point of privilege, because any time that the clerk's office integrity is defamed, I have to speak out on it. And I want to clearly make this clearly for the public, with all due respect, and I have the utmost respect for you, Mr. Wilson. This is what, in essence, happened. I informed you prior to October 17th, before the council had the first reading on the ordinance that they adopted on October 24th, that you needed 20% of the signatures within 100 feet of the property. I gave you the list that had the names of the property owners. Yes, there are names on this list that do not reside in the Knolls or in the city of Pontiac because they are the property owners. A property owner can live anywhere. You can possibly own property outside the city of Pontiac. That does not mean so these are property owners. I explained to you that it was the state law that is the precedence as it relates to a protest petition. You came in with additional signatures. I had my staff review the signatures, informed you before October 17th that you were short. You only had 7 names. Yes, you turned in 100, I think it was 139 names to be exact. But I told you, out of those 139 names, only 7 of them lived within 100 feet of the property. And I said, you still have time to get additional names because the council cannot vote on this item until after 2 readings, which was October 24th. So you were well aware that you were short of the number of names that you needed to get a official protest petition, which would require 5 yes votes as opposed to 4. You chose not to provide those additional 4 names. You had the list. I told you which names were on the list. You had the rest of the names. There were more than 4 names on this list that you had that did live in that particular area that you could have went and gotten. So, with all due respect, there was nothing done wrong by the clerk's office or my staff, and I take highly offense to that when I personally went through this with you on several different occasions into tow, because the clerk's office is not a policymaker. We take no positions on policy, but one thing we do is make sure we're going to uphold the law and we are fair and transparent across the board. So I just wanted to put that, I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes agenda address. And then in the future, you could address through the chair. We are at item number 1, adoption of an ordinance to amend Appendix B of the Municipal Code of the City of Pontiac, amending Article 2, Section 2.103, zoning map. This is a second reading. It was before the City Council at last week's meeting. So again, this is the second reading. We give the floor to the mayor and administration to remind the council and the community about the context before us.
Thank you, Mr. President. While Planning Manager Yandrick is finalizing his PowerPoint presentation, I just want to say a couple introductory comments. First of all, I know this came up last week. This has nothing to do, or very little to do, maybe is a more accurate way to put it, with the master plan. This is not the master plan. This is not the master planning process. That is an entirely distinct process that has just gotten started and will take a long time because it's an in-depth process that is really comprehensive and that really tries to envision what we want looking forward, different zoning and planning in the city and different areas of the city to be. So that's the master plan process. That'll take probably up to a year, maybe even longer than a year, and that will involve a lot of community input because we want to hear from residents what they want to see looking forward in the community. This is an entirely different matter, which is a cleanup item because for the past 9 years, the city did not properly update the zoning map, which is the map that shows existing current zoning for different properties when various parcels were rezoned. And we discovered this problem last year, going back now to 2022, shortly after taking office. And for reasons that are not really clear, the city previous to that had not been updating the zoning map. So things were being rezoned, and that was being approved by city council in the past, but those changes were not being reflected in the zoning map. And so this item is just about updating the zoning map to reflect some of those rezoning changes that had occurred but had never been updated in the map. And with that, I'll turn it over to our planning manager, Mark Yandrick, to get into the details of those specific parcels and the specific updates that are needed.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Council. So just a brief presentation, very similar to last week. This is the process the city is going through for the adoption of this zoning map. It is the exact same process of a zoning map amendment, which is similar to rezoning. And this is a citywide effort to adopt a new zoning map and to get that, once approved, get this published on our website and make it easier for everyone to understand the zoning district of their property and their neighbors' properties. So cities are required to maintain zoning maps. Again, the city has not updated its zoning map since 2014, largely due to record keeping, contracting staff, and technology issues. Current staff has extensively reviewed the zoning map amendments from 2013 to 2022, and this process establishes a new map and zoning districts on the map. And the intention of this process is to not rezone a property, but to adequately reflect the rezonings in this community during this time that were approved. We did add some of the overlay districts. We did add the historic districts and shading on the map itself, and we did change some of the colors just to better align for differentiation between the residential and commercial districts. There are 26 rezonings that the staff found between 2013 and 2022 that are valid today and are reflected in this map. The only items approved that are not reflected in this map are conditional rezonings, and these are nullified if the property did not begin construction within 2 years, and this is per the State of Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. So the conditional rezonings that are approved are hatched on the map itself. So the process for this is there has been public input for someone to verify their zoning district. We had an individual come to the Planning Commission meeting. I've even over the last probably 4 weeks have heard from various members of the community either confirming or questioning the zoning district of their property. There must be proof of approved rezoning from City Council, or the property had a different rezoning on the 2014 official zoning map to get it modified. Staff requested a condition to Planning Commission that city staff may update the cartography and any correction of a zoning district with proof of a proper rezoning prior to the City Council meeting, which is tonight. Since first reading, I do want to acknowledge staff has found a few errors. None of these were from approved rezonings, and all of these were actually we did ensure that the proper rezoning from the 2014 map was duplicated. So there are new rezonings. This was on the Joslyn Road corridor specifically. So I can confirm that that has been looked at several times and is correct. I mentioned this last week, but I just want to reiterate, once this is adopted, staff will be updating the zoning map with adoption of any zoning map amendment within GIS. They will be published on PDF on our website, and it will be on our online web map. This will occur 10 days after every City Council approval as prescribed in the ordinance. Staff will work with our GIS technician to make enhancements to that web map as well, so residents would be able to not only view a web map, but be able to click on properties and get easy-to-use information for their property and the zoning regulations for that zoning district. So again, this is Planning Commission's recommendation, approval 6-0 with one condition. As I mentioned, the current zoning maps are listed or shown outside in the hallway on the easels, and then the current zoning map is also in the map on the screen here. So I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. What was the one condition?
So the condition was city staff may update the cartography or any correction of a zoning district with proof of a proper rezoning prior to the City Council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? So in the memorandum that was accompanied last week and this week as well, it lists 26 different instances of rezoning that's happened in the last 8+ years, 9 years. So I just want to flag that it spans throughout various parts of the city, various different corridors, and many of those aren't necessarily unanimous City Council votes. There are often times where council members may vote contrary to what the full majority votes, and there are other rezoning requests that have come in the last decade, but they failed, and so they are not included in this list. So I just want to make sure that we're not rewriting history and wiping out instances where there were contested votes by this and previous city councils, because a rezoning is a serious matter, and sometimes it's not unanimous. So there are other instances where the rezoning has failed, or there's sort of contrary opinions amongst the city council, but the majority vote makes the verdict unless there is a protest petition that's been verified, and then it requires 5, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, Pro Tem Currington?
Just one quick question. So you're saying that moving forward, because you're talking about almost 10 years of this map not being updated. So what's your process is going to be every 10 days after a rezoning that you're going to update the map moving forward?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so this has been read for now 2 times. So we do have, per the charter, the authority to adopt this ordinance amendment, which basically codifies the map to be up to date in the process going forward. Is there any further discussion, though, prior to, I do want to say, is there a motion to adopt? Did we do it already, Clerk Doyle? Okay, so it's been moved by Councilman Rutherford. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman James. So it's been moved by a council member and seconded. This ordinance amendment adoption is before us. This is our second reading of it. Debate and discussion continues. Any further discussion, clarification, or debate? Okay. Thank you very much to the planning team for the work that went into it. We know that there are tens of thousands of parcels, and so we want to make sure it's as precise and accurate now and going forward. Tens of thousands of parcels in the city with many different zoning designations. Hearing no further discussion. Roll call on adoption of the ordinance amendment. Clerk Doyle.
James? Yes. McGinnis?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The ordinance is hereby amended and the zoning map is updated. Thank you very much, Planning Manager Yandrick. We are now at number 2 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It has been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker. This resolution acknowledges that an ordinance amendment has been read for a first time. This is an ordinance to amend Article 6 under the Finance Division 2 Purchasing, Section 2-256, Specifications, Contracts, and Bid Documents for construction contracts and purchases to add subsection D, authorizing the use of a construction manager at risk delivery method for city construction projects. Again, this is a first reading, so we will not be able to ultimately take action on this. This is being introduced to the council and the community for a first time. Mayor Grimley, you have the floor. Now you can.
Now I can. So before I turn it over to our purchasing manager, Alicia Martin, I just wanted to touch on sort of the high-level concept here. So this is not a standing position that would be responsible for monitoring all contracts. What this is designed to do is to give the city some additional flexibility in how it contracts for construction projects or capital improvement projects by ensuring that there is a construction, and it would be on a case-by-case basis whether the city would utilize this approach, but this would build some flexibility to allow for the city to use this approach. And it would allow for the city to have a construction manager in a role to oversee a given project such that if the project were to run over cost, the construction manager would take on that risk. So it's a way to try to manage cost overruns by ensuring that the construction manager retained on a given project actually would have to pay for any cost overruns. And this would give us some additional flexibility in utilizing this as a cost containment methodology. Now, anytime the city would want to utilize this approach, it would still have to come before City Council for approving the contract with this entity, and so it would still be subject to all of the normal purchasing and contractual safeguards. And with that, Purchasing Manager Martin. Did I accurately sum that up, by the way? Don't hesitate to correct me if I got something wrong.
Yes, and we're going to speak to the construction management at risk approach, but I do want to let council know that this evening, Jeff Gallant, who is legal counsel for Clark Hill, will be joining us. They helped us to develop this resolution. And this is from one of our major construction projects that will be coming up for the city that pertains to the new youth community center. And so the construction manager at risk approach allows us to hire an architect engineer for design and a construction manager pretty much close at the same time so that the value engineering for the project is occurring as we go along throughout the design process. That's a significant savings to the city in that the value engineering will not be occurring after the design is done. It's actually going to be done and conducted while the design is being developed for the center. This is typical. Construction managers often do go out to get skilled trades for construction projects. This will allow the construction manager that we hire that will come before council for approval to do just that. The volume of trades that will be needed for this project will be many, and it will need to be managed by a contractor, such as the mayor said, such as President McGinnis has said, because right now, the purchasing division, we get the day-to-day solicitations that we're managing, which is a large volume of them. And so this is definitely something that we need. Is Jeff online? Jeff?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So
Excellent.
maybe you can speak to the resolution itself and what it's going to accomplish.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think everyone has summed up the construction management at-risk process really well. This is a very popular construction delivery method. It does provide all the safeguards that are already in the code. It just allows the construction manager to perform them, but all through the approval process of the city. Everything is open book, very transparent. And this delivery method is great. It's very popular. It tends to encourage projects to finish on time, within budget. There tends to be a lot less claims for extras, and it's just a really great process to do. And this amendment to the code is necessary to make the process work.
Jeff, do you want to speak also to the funding element of ARPA? This is pretty much why we're doing this amendment as well, to make sure we're adhering to the ARPA guidelines related to bidding out for projects.
Right, thank you. So the city has received ARPA funds that they can use, and they're going to try to use it for this the youth recreational facility. And in order to use federal funds, they of course have federal requirements. And one of those requirements are that there is competitive bidding. So in order to do that, which we can through the city code, through the construction manager at-risk process, the construction manager then would actually physically do the bidding and receive the contracts, but again, all through the approval of the city. So the safeguards are still there. But this is necessary to be able to use those funds for this project.
So in essence, we'll still be using BidNet. Purchasing will still be overseeing the approval process of skilled trades. So we'll be very much involved. It's just the legwork with getting the bids out and getting the skilled trades, getting those bids back in will be managed by the construction manager, but the oversight will be by purchasing with assistance from our DPW department. And legal counsel, because he's part of our team right now. Was there anything else that we needed to point out, Jeff, that I may have missed?
No, I think we covered it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that information. We deliberate now on this first reading. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. Ms. Martin, thank
Yes.
you for coming and staying this afternoon. I know you have a family, you want to get home. But my first question is, you're hiring a construction management company, correct?
Yes.
How many current construction projects do we have working in the city?
I can give you that number. I don't know offhand. I would have to consult with DPW because I know they have the street paving and there's some other projects that's going on. But this is going to be a major design build. So it's going to be a major project. We're looking at approximately 30,000 to 60,000 gross square feet of new construction.
Okay. I guess my follow-up question then would, what would be their interaction with DPW and building safety?
So when I mentioned DPW, we know we just hired an interim engineer, which is Shannon Filarecki. She's been very much involved with the planning in terms of the solicitation document for architectural engineering, and also for construction management. And so she is acting as owner's rep for this particular project, so making sure that we have all the terms and conditions that we need to have in place, working along with council.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
So as we talk about the DPW involvement and with this person, this company that we're going to hire, what would be your role?
Again, my role is what it is now, is overseeing solicitations, facilitating that process, making sure that the city's terms and conditions are being conveyed to those contractors that are interested in participating in the process, making sure that we get a good response to our solicitation, and then making sure that we oversee the award. So making sure that local businesses are being considered when it comes to skilled trades. I know that that's a concern for council. That still remains a concern for me. So making sure we are being inclusive of local Pontiac businesses within that skilled trades realm. And also the award process, making sure we're making appropriate recommendations based on the information that we received, based on our due diligence. We'll be presenting that before council as we always do.
Mayor Grimel?
Yeah, just for some additional context here, when Manager Martin speaks to there being a major project, we would like to have the flexibility to at least consider this approach in the context of the new youth recreation center, so that we can ensure that it's built on time without cost overruns. And yes, the city will continue to have a role to play in making sure that there aren't cost overruns, but this is a way to try to incentivize the contractor themselves to avoid cost overruns by making sure that if there are cost overruns, the contractor eats that and not the city.
And so to clarify, Mayor Grimel, this is an ordinance amendment that's being proposed. It will be read at least one more time, but that based on the city's ordinances presently, that risk manager approach is not permitted, and that's why before we even act on that, we want to see whether the council authorizes the amending of the ordinance to permit that.
That's right. There's some ambiguity as to whether our ordinances allow for it, and we'd like to clarify that to allow that to be considered, not just in the context of the Youth Recreation Center, but in the context potentially of other projects. It's an ordinance that is not specific to any one project, but it would give additional flexibility to how the city can contract if in any one situation, City Council approves this contracting approach.
And a final question before Councilwoman Rutherford and Councilwoman James next on the speakers list. So I believe you indicated that with the American Rescue Plan Act, the federal funding of a substantial degree that will in part be utilized for this new youth recreation center's construction, is it a requirement, a requisite of the American Rescue Plan Act funds that this approach be taken, or?
Well, the approach has to be in policy. It has to be part of our municipal code. So that's why we're coming before council. This is an approach, as Jeff has mentioned, that a lot of municipalities, a lot of companies use this approach because of the benefit of having the construction manager and the architect engineer work together to design and value engineer to save, as the mayor has said before, time and money for the project. Because we have an aggressive timeline with this project.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rutherford.
My question is, number one, how many local contractors have been contacted in regards to this project? Two, if none have been contacted and this is the only one, are they going to use local contractors on this particular project? So I yield that question to the administration.
Yeah, what's before us is not about local contractors, as you may know. So we have gone out with an RFP so far for architectural services only. We have not gone out for this with an RFP, and we have not gone out for any other bids for RFP. Some local architectural firms were contacted about the architectural work. I do know that. But that's the only item for the Youth Rec Center that we've gone out with an RFP for so far. And so that's the answer to that. This project, in terms of the Youth Rec, is, like I said, we've just gone out with the RFP for architectural services. We have gotten proposals back. That deadline has passed, and so we did just earlier this week hit that deadline and have architectural proposals back, but we have not gone out for any other services there. But this is to consider an ordinance to allow flexible contracting approaches in a whole host of situations and projects, and we have not explored yet, because it would be premature before a specific project comes about, what local contractors or others might be interested in working with this kind of arrangement.
So my last, because you answered the part, I just wanted to make sure that we're going to be trying to actively pursue. So like when you talked about the architects, how many architects locally were contacted, how many actually bid on it? So those are the reason why I'm asking this question, because the number one complaint of local contractors and people that are developers in the city is that we're not using our own. So I just want to ensure that this administration is actively pursuing, actively giving people an opportunity to actually try to bid on these jobs. So that's why I asked the question the way I did.
Absolutely, and we're sensitive to that. We want to try to provide as much work as possible to Pontiac-based contractors, because the more we can keep those dollars in our community, circulating in the community, it's best for all of us. And so we're very sensitive to that. It's just not, this ordinance today isn't about hiring any one contractor.
Thank you so much.
Councilwoman James.
Yeah, I think it definitely has some advantages in consideration that we are getting ready to undertake a major multi-million-dollar project with the community center. But I've got some definite concerns about it. My three top concerns about this issue, number one is when you outsource something like that, that big of a project, I'm concerned about the compliance aspect of it, of how do you ensure compliance when you have outsourced the management of that, as far as federal regulations, state regulations, and just who is going to oversee that construction manager. I mean, or what's the process for the city to follow up with the construction manager? He's building to a build plan, but what does that look like? The city has never really done anything like this before that I know of, so there's some big question marks as to who oversees the overseer. The second big concern is the community benefit that Councilman Rutherford just brought up. That has to be written into this agreement. We need to know that whoever that construction manager is, because he will be in charge of bidding the contracts. So we need to make sure that it's written in there, some kind of workforce development plan. And that needs to be written in. It can't be verbal. It needs to be a part of the plan. And then my third and biggest concern is I just don't know that the city of Pontiac has the organizational infrastructure, the maturity to really pull this off. It's great to be able to utilize the construction manager. I've done some research on it. It has positive advantages, but I don't know that we have the maturity. And somebody's going to have to really convince me that we've got the infrastructure in place that we can manage a construction manager process. That's a major concern.
Thank you. Mayor Grimal?
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. I think those are all important questions. I would just note that we historically have not done construction management in-house, so we're not outsourcing anything that we have historically done in-house. This isn't really about allowing for the hiring of a construction manager. That can already be done. That often has been done. It's really about hiring a construction manager where the construction manager bears the financial risk of going over budget. So it's really about trying to make sure that the construction manager is incentivized to keep the budget under control and to keep the project completed on time. And I would also say in that regard to your third concern, that if anything, it makes it easier for an organization that may not have the internal organizational infrastructure to make sure that projects are happening on time and within budget, because there's, in addition to us overlooking those projects and making sure that those projects are within budget and on time, which has always been our responsibility and will continue in part to be our responsibility, it's actually putting that incentive with the construction manager. So by lining up the construction manager's incentives to make sure that projects happen on time and within budget, it's actually lessening the need for the city to have as robust an internal infrastructure to make sure that those things happen. And then the final thing, which is an important point, is yes, any community benefits requirements, any workforce development requirements could be incorporated into a contract utilizing a construction manager assuming the risk approach like we're outlining here, just as much as it could be in any other construction contract with a general contractor or with a construction manager. I would just ask the attorney to chime in as well, or Manager Martin to chime in as well in terms of those questions as well.
So hopefully this will add or shed some light to some of the questions Councilwoman James has. So when we were looking at taking on this project, we immediately developed a team internally. So part of that team is myself. It's Jeff Gallant, whose expertise is in construction industry. He's our legal counsel. We have Shannon Filarecki, again, who is the owner's rep for this project. So when your question came, like who will be overseeing the construction manager, that will fall on her and Patrick Mueller, who is the deputy director for DPW. So that's where that internal oversight will be coming from. Also in the contract, you know, there's language to protect the city as well, which Jeff can speak to in terms of oversight, in terms of compliance. So that's in the contract. And then also, the bids are being facilitated by BidNet, which is a bid solution that we're using now, which can provide transparency in terms of who's bidding. And to speak to a question that was asked earlier, we are developing a prospect list of construction management firms that are within Pontiac, around Pontiac, to make them aware that this construction manager at-risk solicitation is going to be posted, is going to be available for them to participate. And then number 2 was community benefits. We're looking at incorporating language about a percentage of the skilled trades being from Pontiac. So we're kind of talking about that language right now. I'm talking about that language with legal counsel. It has come up in our conversations. It's just something we just need to define before we put the solicitation document out. And we can actually make sure that you get a copy of that to take a look at that language to make sure it meets or addresses your concern. The construction manager at risk document is not ready. We are working on it. It is in draft form. So I'm happy that these issues are coming forth so we can make sure that they are being captured in the solicitation document, that it is being captured in the contract that will accompany that document when it's posted.
Councilwoman James.
And again, and thank you very much for those answers. I think the mayor said that these cases would be on a case-by-case basis,
Yes.
and that they would be required to be approved by council. Will that be in your ordinance as well?
Well, yes, it's already in the ordinance. Says any major purchase that's $10,000 or more has to come before council for approval.
Okay.
So we will continue to do that.
Okay. Also, if you could explain number and what we were given, could you explain? I think it's D. No, it's B.
B.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding Jeff, do you have the document? I'm sure you do, but I'll just read it just so the community will know what we're addressing. So it says, notwithstanding the foregoing provisions regarding the preparation of contract, specifications, and the provisions of this division regarding the procedures for advertising, bidding, and award of city contracts, the administration of construction contracts after the award, therefore, shall be the responsibility of the department or division as designated by the mayor and not the purchasing agent. And my understanding is that's being amended. I think the text that we were amending was in red font, and I don't know if council received it in color or not.
No, this is not in color.
So there's 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much the new changes that we're asking to be, or the new amendment items that we're asking for council to consider.
Okay.
Is that correct, Jeff? Am I saying that correctly?
Correct, yeah, there's item D and then subparts 1, 2, and 3.
So again, we do want the purchasing agent or purchasing manager to have oversight over solicitations. We're going to give the CM temporary access to BidNet to be able to post solicitation documents. I'll be able to monitor the progress of those documents. And then it won't be the CM posting the award. That task will be the purchasing manager on BidNet. But again, those recommendations have to get pre-approval before we make them the awards. So we'll continue to make recommendations to council. These are the subs that we want to award contracts to, and then council has an opportunity to let us know if they have concerns regarding that list before we make the bid award. Yes. I'm sorry.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. So the 1, 2, and 3 on page 2 is applied to Section B and not Section D?
No, we're saying that this was the new language that we're proposing because B said not the purchasing agent, but if you look at the language in 1, 2, and 3, it's involving purchasing manager, purchasing agent.
Okay.
Mayor Grimal to elaborate further.
Yeah,
on the
to
response.
clarify, my understanding is, and again, jump in, purchasing manager Martin and the attorney, but our existing ordinance is this section 2-526 with sections A, B, and C only. And then, although it's not in color, it's sort of a lighter font. Section D with subsections 1, 2, and 3 are being added by this proposal if council enacts it. And so 1, 2, and 3 are subsections to they're subsections to subsection D, and they only apply, I believe, to subsection D. Is that right, Attorney?
That is correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
Further discussion on this first reading? Hearing no further discussion, again, the resolution before us acknowledges that it's been read for a first time. It will come before us for a second reading for further deliberation, debate, and then ultimately before a verdict is rendered. All right. Hearing no further discussion or clarification needed, roll call and adoption of the resolution to approve and acknowledge the first reading of the ordinance to amend. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis?
Yes.
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 That motion carries. The resolution acknowledging and approving the first reading has been adopted. We're at number 3 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the appointment of Stephen L. Gerhardt, Jr. as Chief Assistant Clerk?
Moved by Carrington.
Moved by Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. That motion is now before us. Let me give the floor, since this is a resolution from the City Clerk's office pertaining to Clerk's office operations. Clerk Doyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Mr. Gerhardt is here with us this evening.
I just wanted to share some information. His resume is in the packet as well as the resolution. But he currently is the Chief Deputy City Clerk for the City of Ann Arbor, which he has been for the past 5 years. Prior to that, he was the Deputy City Clerk for the City of Grosse Pointe Woods. He's also worked in the City of Dearborn in Dearborn Heights as well. He has both a Bachelor's of Public Affairs and a Master's of Public Administration from Wayne State University. He has been certified as a municipal clerk, as well as a certified Michigan professional municipal clerk. So those are 2 standards within our profession. He currently serves as the vice president of the Washtenaw County Municipal and Township Clerks Association. And last year, he was awarded the 2022 Deputy Clerk of the Year by the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. And he was a part of a study with the University of Michigan that was recognized by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission for line tracking as it relates to voting. So I'm really excited about this appointment. The clerk's office has been in need of a chief assistant for some time. I think Mr. Gerhardt is the perfect candidate. He will be leading up the elections, FOIAs, and helping with overall office management within our office. So if you want to ask him any questions, he's here and can.
Thank you. So the motion is now before us. We've heard from the city clerk about presentation of the resolution for consideration. Now we can hear from the applicant. If you'd like to introduce yourself and share a little bit further. And first and foremost, just let us say thank you very much for considering the city of Pontiac for your next stage of your professional career. So please let the city council and the community know a little more about you.
Well, I don't know that I can really give much more of a detailed background than Clerk Doyle just gave. But obviously, I've been doing this since I was 16 years of age, so clerking is just really in my blood. I'm excited to come to a new community and really ingrain myself in the community, so I look forward to coming out to Pontiac.
Thank you very much. Continuing the speakers list, Councilwoman Rutherford.
I am just so impressed with how many different cities that you've worked with and your professional background, especially in Grosse Pointe, Dearborn, where you deal with a collective of different nationalities. So I'm just so impressed when I was able to read your resume this weekend. But what impressed me the most, was you were given Deputy Clerk of the Year. And so my only question is, how did you get that, and how were you nominated for it, and what was the process?
Absolutely. So the process for being Deputy Clerk of the Year is both my city. Oh, sorry.
Order in the chambers. There's just a point of personal privilege. You can also take the microphone and direct it to amplify better. There you go.
Absolutely. Sorry. So to be named Deputy Clerk of the Year, both my city administrator and my city clerk nominated me. They wrote glowing letters, and then it went to a vote of my peers. So every clerk and deputy clerk in the state of Michigan was given a ballot with different candidates of who could be Deputy Clerk of the Year, and I was chosen out of, I don't remember how many candidates were on the ballot that year, but that's ultimately how, my peers recognized me as Deputy Clerk of the Year.
Great.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion before us. Councilman Goodman.
So I could be wrong, and this is not about you. Your resume is very strong, but I just want to ask some questions for my own knowledge. Did we not appoint someone to this position last year?
Clerk Doyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did appoint someone, and that person was not a good fit for the clerk's office.
Can I ask how long was the position vacant between whenever they left and now? Because I honestly have no awareness.
It's been vacant since June, so that's August, September, October, pretty much 5 months.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing nothing. Oh, Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. Mr. Gerhardt, thank you for deciding to join us, but why do you want to leave Ann Arbor?
Absolutely. as I told Clerk Doyle in my interview, Ann Arbor will always be Ann Arbor, and Ann Arbor will always have the resources to do whatever Ann Arbor needs to do. As the son of a Detroit public school teacher, I really want to go someplace that I personally can make a difference. You see in my background that I've worked in a lot of diverse communities, and ultimately, when I look back at my career, the place that I always felt that I made the biggest difference to the community was the city of Dearborn, serving a largely diverse population. So I was looking forward to getting back to population and being able to serve.
And having worked in Ann Arbor from January to now, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment while you were there?
I mean, there's been so many things, and ultimately, and Clerk Doyle was a little taken aback when I walked in this afternoon to meet with him because I was wearing jeans and I was looking a little haggard. I'm in the process right now, as I quickly try to wrap up the last of my work. I was able to secure, using ARPA funding, a new election center that will be the hub of our city, that will use as our early voting location, our absentee count board, our secure storage for all of our voting equipment. So that's just something I'm very proud of, having this all-in-one vote center that's really going to be a shining example across the state in the coming months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent questions. Any further discussion on the motion before us? Councilman Goodman.
So in piggybacking off the last question, what are some things that you feel that you have seen in the city of Pontiac, or things that you would possibly want to bring here to increase civic engagement and all the protections that are needed in a community like Pontiac?
Absolutely. So you'll find in the city of Ann Arbor, much like in Pontiac, we have doubters of the election process. And I've always been one that is not afraid to speak my mind and stand up for the protection of the democratic process. So I'm going to bring that voice. I was looking at the challenges, opportunities that was hanging in the clerk's office this afternoon, and things that I was just very quickly discussing with Clerk Doyle was the opportunities for just small, simple things, obviously strengthening our election inspector training program, but small community engagement things, such as when we go through the early voting process, to run mock elections for the children, so that when they come in with their parents, that they had that opportunity to cast their, sample ballot of what's your favorite ice cream flavor, what's your favorite color, something simple like that, so that they start to get that involvement in the democratic process at a young age, so that we start to build the youth into engaged voters at a very young age, and hopefully build that out into a further generation.
Councilwoman James.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. We definitely need to think outside of the box. What I would love to see is for us to do something special with first-time voters. When we have big elections, people who have voted 50 million times are mixed in with the first-time voters, and they're all treated the same. And I really would love to see our city single out first-time voters. This is the first time our young people have come to the polls, and we should really make that a very definite and definitive point in time. We should have a process for how we deal with first-time voters to make sure that that is a positive experience for them. So I hope that you would be willing to take that one on. But thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Councilman Parker.
One last question. This is for the
microphone.
I just have one last question. This is for the city clerk, actually. In reviewing and deciding to fill this position, was there no one that could be promoted from within?
Through the president, no, Councilman Parker. No one in the clerk's office presently has Mr. Gerhardt's skill set and the resources and stuff that he will bring to the clerk's office.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call and adoption of the resolution approving the appointment of Stephen L. Gerhardt Jr. as Chief Assistant Clerk for the City of Pontiac. Clerk Doyle.
Parker?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
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 The resolution, yes, I'm sorry. That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Congratulations to Mr. Gerhardt on your successful appointment to the position. Welcome to the City of Pontiac. We are at number 4 on this evening's agenda. It does not need a move and a support because it was previously moved and supported at last week's meeting. The council did vote to postpone to this evening for further research and review. It's the resolution to approve the contract with Site Industries LLC, doing business as, or DBA, SEM Sites, to renew the SEM Sites software license used to operate Ottawa Park and Oak Hill cemeteries, and authorize the mayor or mayor's designee to sign the agreement. So for the community's benefit, there are 2 municipal cemeteries that we, the taxpayers, and the citizens of Pontiac are responsible for. One's Oak Hill Cemetery, located near the center and the heart of our city, in the city proper, but we also own, as the city, Ottawa Park Cemetery, which is in Independence Township in the Clarkston vicinity up off Dixie Highway. And so this is for software license for continued operations of those cemeteries. Mayor and staff, you have the floor to bring further updates and research on the matter before us.
Yeah, thank you, President McGinnis. So I know Council heard a fair amount about this last week. I wanted to make sure that we were leaving no stone unturned in terms of making sure that we were doing our due diligence. So the city attorney has recommended, all things considered, that we move forward with this. This could be paid for by either party in theory, but there's some ambiguity there about whose responsibility it should be. And the city has been paying for it in recent years. And so that, in essence, is why we're recommending we move forward with this at this time. Deputy Director Mueller, or Acting Director Mueller, I should say, any additional comments, information, insights?
I think we've covered just about everything, but just to be clear, it's a software license that we're looking to renew, 2-year contract. The total for the 2 years is $16,776, split between both evenly and billed quarterly. So that's $4,194 each per year. And again, this is a license, renew the license, a software license that we use to operate the cemeteries kind of by and large. There's a lot of different facets to the software, but it fairly A to Z, pretty inclusive. It's what they use to operate what we've been using, and it's our recommendation that we continue.
Thank you. Further discussion on the resolution before us? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted, and we move now on roll call vote on the adoption of the resolution to approve the contract for the SEM Sites software license renewal. Clerk Doyle.
Parker?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Nichols? Yes. 7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We are now at number 5 on this evening's agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the budget amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker. This resolution approving a budget amendment for this current fiscal year to establish a budget appropriation in the amount of $1,958,300 to account 285-699-818.000, ARP CPK, other professional services, community parks. This is for American Rescue Plan Act funds for community park improvements. This was noticed with a council vote 2 weeks ago. It was published and circulated that this budget amendment will be considered tonight. So now we have it before us. And so we give the floor to the administration for context and background.
Well, thank you. We had previously, earlier this year, allocated roughly $4 million of ARPA dollars for neighborhood and mini parks. Those are smaller parks that are really designed to serve local neighborhoods. This budget amendment would allocate roughly $2 million, almost $2 million of ARPA dollars for bigger community parks. So we designate community parks as those parks that really serve the entire city. Those are large parks like the Mill Dam, like Aaron Perry Park, Murphy Park, Galloway Lake Park is another example of that. And so certainly $2 million alone is not sufficient to make the kinds of improvements that we need to see at those parks, but it does allow us to get started. And it certainly is important for us to get started as we continue to seek some matching grant dollars out there. And so I'd like to invite our Director of Grants, Alex Borgengesser, to the podium to talk in a little greater detail about this.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. What you have before you is a resolution to establish a budget appropriation for resources to go out for park site planning and a community-led design process for our largest parks, our community parks. A very similar process to the neighborhood and mini parks that you saw earlier this year. Our objective is to go out to bid for services related to park site planning and the community-led design process, just as we did for Galloway Lake Park during these cold winter months, and engage in community engagement and town halls, site planning, amenity review, et cetera, to be prepared to go out to bid for construction and other services in the warmer months in later spring and early summer. So that's what you have before you. This will allow us to engage in the solicitation process and the purchasing process to go out to bid for that park site planning.
Can you please share with the community what qualifies, what do we determine are community parks for the city of Pontiac's municipal park
The community parks are the city's largest parks, and if you take a look at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, you'll see that designation. The Parks Manager, Alex Zagrzowski, could better detail the definitions around how they're determined, but the largest amount of acreage, access to lakes, and are central to the community and districts. So as the mayor mentioned, that's Oakland Park, that is Murphy Park, Galloway Lake Park, Aaron Perry, and several others.
Yeah, just to round out that list, J.C. Park,
Thank you.
Crystal Lake Park, Hawthorne Park, Galloway Lake Park, but it's and as I mentioned earlier, the Mill Dam or Bodette Park. But it's important to note that the Galloway Lake Park would not be using any of these funds for design work because a separate stream of funding has done that, is my understanding. Is that right in terms of the design work in that park?
That is correct. We've also received resources for Crystal Lake Park. We received $500,000
Right.
from the Oakland County ARPA grant program for Parks and Recreation. That $500,000 will be applied to Crystal Lake, so you will not see that park on this list either.
And then similarly with Hawthorne Park, now Pontiac Oaks Park, the county is taking on the expense of park planning and infrastructure improvements there. It remains a city-owned park, and it remains free of charge to the public, but Oakland County has taken on the day-to-day management of now Pontiac Oaks. So we're really talking about this funding being focused on the following parks, as I understand it. Murphy Park, the Mill Dam / Bodette Park, Aaron Perry Park, Oakland Park, and J.C. Park. I think that covers all of the parks that are the focus of this pot of funding. Is that accurate?
That is correct. And you'll notice that this amount is slightly less than $2 million. A portion of this was dedicated to ball field renovations that the council approved earlier this year.
And that was done at Bodette Park.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Next on the speakers list, Councilwoman Rutherford.
He already mentioned Bodette Park, so I don't have to ask the question about if the funding is going to the mill down. I just want to always thank you for your leadership, Ms. Borgengesser, and for making sure you keep the residents and the community first. But my side, excuse me, I'm sorry. My side question was this: in regards to Art Dunlap. What is the timeline on the RFP? I know it's been out for a while, and when is that going to close? Because that's one of the initiatives that I asked about.
Yep, so that RFP closed a couple of weeks ago. We did receive the bid tabulations earlier this week. Alex Zagrzowski and I have had a chance to review them. We received a few bids for the design services for all of those neighborhood and mini parks that were selected. Next, we'll do interviews with each of the applicants, and then we'll go through the process of selecting and presenting a contract for approval to the council.
And my follow-up question is, just so that we have information, Name again the two parks that's in District 1 that's going to be repaired so that the audience at home and the haters in the audience can hear it.
The two parks that were selected, I believe, were Motor in Montana as well as Art Dunlap.
Thank you.
All right, and that's from the neighborhood or mini parks that was previously authorized. So Motor in Montana and Art Dunlap Park in District 1, but then also as a community park, Bodette Park and the Mill Dam at the District 1, District 2 border. Well, representing District 7 on the east side, I'm really enthusiastic about Murphy Park being, and I see Councilman Emeritus representing the east side, the Honorable Kermit Williams, a long advocate for Murphy Park. This will go a long way. And I know the Friends of Murphy Park have been eager to say, well, what about us? And rightfully so, that this is going to be able to start that process of community engagement, hear that feedback so that way we can help shape, plan, and then start implementing substantial improvements for something comprehensive, cohesive, and can stand this test of time. So I'm an eager and enthusiastic yes vote on behalf of the east side and for Murphy Park's improvements. Further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing nothing further, roll call and adoption of the resolution approving that budget amendment to establish the budget appropriation in the amount of $1,958,300 for American Rescue Plan Act funds for community park improvements. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson, Parker.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. The budget's hereby amended. The next two items, 6 and 7, are also budget amendments, and they also are following the same cycle where 2 meetings ago we authorized the posting of it, and it was noticed so that way community members could know it was a coming. So is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving this next budget amendment?
So moved.
Is there was that a second from Councilman Nicholson? Okay. Councilwoman Rutherford moves. Councilman Nicholson seconds. This budget amendment for the current fiscal year establishes budget appropriations in the amount of $78,795 to account 285,000,532.000 ARP HRP salaries and wages, $6,028 to account 285,699,715.000 ARP HRP FICA city contribution, $11,775 to account 285,699,716.000 ARP HRP medical insurance, $5,516 to account 285,699,718.500 ARP HRP MERS employer contribution, $568 to account 285,699,719.001 ARP HRP dental insurance, $10 to account 285,699,716.011 ARP HRP hearing / optical, $928 to account 285,699,717.000 ARP HRP life insurance, $1,000 to account 285,699,719.000 ARP HRP workers' compensation, $759 to account 285,699,725.000 ARP HRP sick and vacation contribution, $1,200 to account 285,699,707.003 ARP HRP cell phone stipend, $4,000 to account 285,699,957.002 ARP HRP training, and $80,000 to account 285,699,818.000 ARP HRP other professional services. This is for American Rescue Plan Act funds for the home repair program building inspector. So it's a personnel position specifically utilizing the rescue plan funds, so that way our home repair program has building inspectors in-house that can make the program soar efficiently and swiftly. Mayor Grimal, administration, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. This, as has already been stated, relates to the home repair program. That has been a massive undertaking, standing up a home repair program where we're arranging for all of the contractors. We're doing the building inspection work or the home inspection work for the program. And so I do want to thank our Director of Grants, Alex Borngesser, and her team, as well as our Economic Development Manager, Deborah Younger, and her team for all of their amazing work in standing this program up. And one aspect of that is funding the positions for this program, including the home repair inspector. So with that, take it away, Director Borngesser.
Thank you, Mayor. The budget amendment you have before you is several parts, but it's really two parts. The first piece is establishing the budget appropriation for the building inspector to move from the building and safety division budget to a true ARPA budget. We, obviously, this is our first time going through this process. You can build beautiful operations and workflows and org charts and think it's going to work, and then you put real people in those roles, and you find that there's a better solution for managing your team. So throughout the last many months, we've determined that it is most effective to have the current building inspector, who this position is filled and staffed, moved administratively to the ARPA budget under the direction of myself and in coordination with the rest of our team, so that we can do things like approve time off and approve expenses and things of that nature. It's essentially just moving the budget from one place to another and establishing her position funded under ARPA. So previously, we had intended to recoup the cost of her salary as it's listed in the building and safety division through the enterprise fund through permitting fees, and so this will work a little differently. But it'll be much easier to manage, much easier to report to the federal government, which we're required to do very frequently. The second part of this, the $80,000 that you see listed, is for LIRAs. These are lead assessments. Initially, we had considered lumping in the lead assessments into the total award for each of the properties. What we've determined is that doing so has reduced the total award amount for each of the residents, which is not our objective. The lead assessments are very costly, coming in at around $2,000 in the high end for per property. And some of these properties at the time of the lead assessment are not even receiving awards. So we're allocating resources to an award that will not have been received. And so this is just a better way of doing it and something we've learned throughout the process. All of these additional expenses are considered as part of our contingency budget that we thoughtfully worked into this entire ARPA budget, knowing that things like this and changes would be needed as we went throughout this process.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion before us? Councilwoman James.
I just want to clarify that we have already hired the building inspector for the home improvement program.
Oh, yeah.
But this is just moving them from building safety to your grants and philanthropy organization.
That is correct. Her name is Erin Hardcastle. She has been working here for several months. She's wonderful. If you haven't met her, I encourage you to come downstairs and meet her. She's conducted a little over 80 inspections so far and has provided multiple visits to many of our home repair applicants. She's been a wonderful asset to our team, and we're just moving this administratively so I can do things like approve her time off.
Okay.
And so that way the American Rescue Plan funding can smoothly facilitate the funding.
Correct.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing nothing further, speakers list exhausted. Before us now is roll call on the adoption of the resolution approving this budget amendment. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford. 7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. The budget is hereby amended. We're at number 7 on this evening's agenda, our final budget amendment. Is there a motion to adopt it? Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Nicholson, to adopt this resolution. A resolution approving a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2023-24 to establish budget appropriations in the amount of $1,000 to account 285-699-902.005 ARP BUS public notices, $10,000 to account 285-699-728.000 ARP BUS postage, $5,000 to account 285-699-901.000 ARP BUS printing and bindery service, $1,000 to account 285-699-745.003 ARP BUS events, $500,000 to account 285-699-818.019 ARP BUS professional services technical assistance, $1,250,000 to account 285-699-969.004 ARP BUS contribution grants, $750,000 to account 285-699-818.020 ARP BUS professional services loans, and $83,000 to account 285-699-818.000 ARP BUS other professional services. So this package of budget actions here is for American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Small Business Support Program and related aspects. So it's now before us. We give the floor to the administration for more context and background.
Thank you. So this also relates to a major undertaking of the city, and that is standing up Small Business Assistance Program. And so again, I want to thank Director Borngesser and Manager Younger for their hard work in this regard. We're not quite at the point of launching it, but this budget amendment will help position us and prepare us to launch the Small Business Program, including the Technical Assistance Program, which are programs and classes and mentorship opportunities for entrepreneurs, local small businesses, so that they can have the expertise needed to successfully launch and grow their business. So with that, Director Borngesser, we're eager to hear more about it.
Thank you, Mayor. The budget amendment you have before you will appropriate resources for a small business program that I've presented on at council a couple of times and in each of the appropriate subcommittees. It is a program that aims to release $1,250,000 in small business grants, $500,000 in small business technical assistance, and $750,000 in small business loans. The specifics of those various programs have been described here at council and will be described at future town halls. We are prepared to release town hall dates. We are prepared to release program timelines and application documents pending the approval of this budget appropriation. For obvious reasons, we're reluctant to release that information until we know that the money will be there to be used for the purpose of this program. If we were to approve this budget amendment this evening, we have town halls ready to be scheduled on the 29th, December 1st, and December 6th to begin discussions around technical assistance. And then in the coming months, we would establish a relationship with a loan provider and prepare to release the additional pieces of the loan and grant program.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Rutherford.
So once this is approved, the RFP for the technical assistance will go out when, hypothetically?
So the RFP for the technical assistance is written and the solicitation request form has been completed. The purchasing manager has those documents now, and this could be posted very quickly following the approval of this budget amendment.
So my follow-up is, if this is approved, could you give me a date when it's going to happen? The reason why I'm asking is because you have a lot of small businesses that are anticipating this, that need this to happen so they get the technical part handled so that they actually get approved. Because what we don't want to happen is they don't know the dates, time. So if this is approved, could you give me a date? That's what I want to know.
I would hate to impact my colleagues by setting them up for a timeline that they're not speaking to, but she does have all those documents. It is prepared to be posted, so I would imagine that this is something that could be posted early next week if this budget amendment was approved.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Further discussion on the resolution before us, approving the budget amendment. Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call and adoption of the resolution approving the budget amendment. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. The budget is hereby amended. We are at number 8 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the appointment of Joanne Gurley as Director of Law for the City of Pontiac?
Moved.
Is there a second? Support. It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Nicholson, that we adopt the resolution. We give the floor to Mayor Greimel on his appointment request for the Law Department for the City Department and a new Director, Joanne Gurley. You have the floor, Mayor Greimel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. As council is aware, and I'm sure some members of the public are aware as well, but just to refresh the topic with members of the public, as part of this fiscal year's budget that went into effect July 1st, we established an in-house legal director position. Much of our work, probably the lion's share of the work, the majority of the work, will continue to be done by outside law firms because they have the expertise needed to really focus on those topics. But we thought it was important to have a director of law position here at the city for two reasons.
Just a point of personal privilege, Mayor Grimal will let the community member. Okay. Mayor Grimal, you can continue.
Yeah, thank you. So we thought it was important, though, to have a director of law position for two reasons. And
Order in the chambers. The mayor has the floor. Order in the chambers. Mayor Grimal, you're recognized. Please continue.
yeah, so we thought it was important to have a director of law position for a couple of reasons. And I would just note, as a matter of city history, that at one time the city had a really big law department with not just a legal or law director, but also a number of staff attorneys who worked under that law director. We're not, at least not at this time, proposing to move in that direction, but we did want to make sure that we had a law director for two reasons. Number one, there are a number of more mundane aspects of legal assistance, like reviewing contracts, looking over ordinances, things of that nature, that we believe can be done by a law director, and if done by an in-house legal director, can be more cost-effective and ultimately save the city money as compared with outsourcing some of that work to outside legal counsel. But secondly, we have a number of outside attorneys working on a number of projects, and as I said, we anticipate that that will continue. And it would be helpful to have an in-house person, one in-house attorney, who can actually oversee that work, coordinate that work, and just make sure that that work is happening on time in an effective and efficient manner. And currently, that really falls to some combination of the deputy mayor and me, as well as to department directors. And of those folks, I'm the only person who, as a professional matter, is a licensed attorney. And I'm just one person here. I don't necessarily know exactly what different departments are working on with different law firms. And so by having an in-house attorney coordinating that, we can make sure that that's done in a more timely and cost-effective manner. We were really impressed by Joanne Gurley, who applied for this position. She was one of a number of people who we interviewed for the position of Director of Law. She has a lot of municipal legal experience and certainly has an understanding of the city of Pontiac and some familiarity with the city of Pontiac as well. So I'd like to invite Attorney Gurley to introduce herself and speak a little bit to her background and why she's interested in working here in the city of Pontiac. And then we certainly would invite city council members to ask any questions that they may have. So with that, Counselor, feel free to introduce yourself.
Good evening to everyone, to Mayor Grimal, to Deputy Mayor Stevens in his absence, council, and to audience members. My name is Joanne Gurley. I am a native Michigander. Grew up, raised on the east side of the city of Detroit. I graduated from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I graduated from the University of Detroit, Mercy School of Law. As Mayor Grimal has stated, I have worked in municipal government for about 23 years now. I've been a practicing attorney for 12. I've been in public service for the majority of my adult career. This is a second career. Prior to being an attorney, I was a news producer for several stations, and at this time, it would be an honor to be the Director of Law here for the City of Pontiac.
Thank you very much for your time this evening, but more broadly, thank you very much for pursuing the City of Pontiac and allowing us to consider you for this position. So the motion is now before us in terms of approving the appointment of Attorney Gurley, and now deliberation and discussion. Council members? Hearing no, Pro Tem Carrington, you have the floor.
Thank you, President McGinnis. First, I'd like to welcome you tonight, so thank you.
Thank you.
For coming in. I'm gonna ask you some pretty tough questions, I believe. I know that you're coming out of a Flint system that's been very divisive. So what has been your technique in how to deal with when you have a council and administration that's not totally working together?
Well, I think the best approach, and which has been my approach, is to always give the best information. So it is not my job to take sides. It is to provide the best legal information that I have available, to conduct the research as requested, and to relay that information to the council members and to the executive branch.
Okay, that's one. So that's a great answer, because I know that's what the council was looking for us to have the correct information, for you to give us your honest opinion of what direction this council should go, as well as the administration, without leading this council in any direction. So I definitely appreciate you for that answer. So when you decided to apply for the City of Pontiac job, what really caught your interest to make this move from Flint to Pontiac?
Well, actually, I was asked to apply for the position. And anytime that I think that I can add value to a position, I will consider it. And based on the information that I have about Pontiac, I think that I would indeed add value, perspective, sound legal advice. So those were the reasons.
All right, thank you. No further questions from me, President McGinnis.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Councilman Parker, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, President. I just want to say to Ms. Gurley, thank you. I was a part of the group that did our initial interview with her, and she was very professional, very informative, and I just want to thank you for accepting our position, and look forward to working with you in the near future.
Thank you.
Councilwoman James.
Yes, I would like to know, and I guess I'm asking the mayor as well as yourself, is how will your role connect with the city council? Will council members have direct access to be able to ask you to do research on behalf of the council for different issues? So I'd just like to know, what would your role be with respect to the council?
Looks like Mayor Grima wants to take it first.
Yeah, and I certainly welcome Attorney Gurley's thoughts as well, but it's very important that the city attorney position be the attorney for the city, not for the mayor, not for city council. And so that's why it was important to us to invite a representative from city council to be a part of the interview process. And it's why the answer to Pro Tem Carrington's question is so important. And it's actually a question I asked in the interview as well, because it's really important for the city attorney's credibility to not take sides and to give honest legal advice and information that's in the best interest of the city. And so we certainly welcome city council asking the city attorney for advice and opinions and insights as well. I think for the purpose of channeling that, it probably makes the most sense to go through the council president for that, rather than having 7 different people constantly feeding information to the city attorney. But ultimately, I defer to we hope the soon-to-be city attorney, Attorney Gurley, about that, and to the city council president.
I believe under your charter, you are able to, as a council, request legal opinions, research, and such.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Before us is the question of adoption of the resolution approving the appointment of Joanne Gurley as Director of Law. The Law Department is prescribed in the Pontiac City Charter that's currently in place. And so, with that, roll call and adoption. Oh, Councilman Parker?
I just have one question.
Your microphone.
I'm sorry. I just have one really question before we vote. When will she start? If we vote approve her, when will
Mayor Grima?
Well, I know that Deputy Mayor Stevens had that conversation with you, Attorney Gurley, but I actually don't know the exact start date. So if you're comfortable sharing that this evening, I think all of us would be eager to hear the answer. From my perspective, we would like you to start as soon as possible, but I realize there may be some constraints on exactly how soon you can start.
Yes, there are constraints. I would, want to wrap up items that I currently have in place with my current employer and make sure that they're set. So I will be in discussions with Deputy Mayor and Mayor Grimo just to ensure that we're all good with the start date.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hearing no further discussion, roll call on adoption of the resolution approving the appointment of Joanne Gurley as Director of Law. Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and Attorney Gurley is appointed as the Director of Law for the City of Pontiac. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
We are at number 9 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving the appointment of the candidate of Linda Dorakovic? And I'll let Linda or the mayor correct me on enunciation and pronunciation of that last name, as the Human Resources Director.
Well, thank you, President McGinnis.
Is there a motion?
Yes, please.
Support. It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker for approving the resolution approving the appointment of Linda Dorakovic as the Human Resources Director. Mayor Grimo.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. I know that the C is pronounced as a CH at the end, so I believe it's Drakovich, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I want to just say how excited we are also about the candidate for Human Resources Director, Melinda Dorakovich. And she comes with a long history of human resources experience with a number of large organizations. She has roots in Pontiac, which is always a plus from our perspective, and we were impressed by her demeanor and her approach to human resources issues, as well as her very welcoming approach and welcoming personality. And so again, it's with a lot of enthusiasm that we recommend Ms. Dorakovic for the position of Human Resources Director, and I'd like to invite her to introduce herself and express why she's interested in working here in Pontiac.
Good evening, everyone. I am so happy to be here. My name is Melinda Dorakovic, and I am...
To the right.
I was trying to notify some of the city staff, but
Is
I
that
think
it?
you're live now.
You got it? Okay, wonderful. Again, let me start over. I'm happy to be here. My name is Melinda Dorakovic, and I am a human resources professional. Like the mayor stated, I do have roots here in Pontiac. My family is from Pontiac, and I am so excited to be back into the city and to serve the city as well. When this opportunity came, I was so excited. I lived in Pontiac for almost my whole teenage life, and then we moved. But after graduating from Tennessee State University, I came back and actually worked at North Oakland Medical Centers for about 6-7 years. So again, I have roots, and I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for your time this evening, but more broadly for considering the city of Pontiac for your next stage of your professional career. Is your last name pronounced Dorakovic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And I apologize for missing the silent H at the end. Of the
No
first
worries.
All right. Councilman Nicholson chairs our Finance and Personnel Committee, and himself is very well versed in the field of human resources and a subject matter expert, if you will. So the City Council relies on him a great deal. The mayor alluded to this with the law director position as well, but for department head considerations, City Council members are actively included in the interview and sort of final stages of the process before it reaches the state, and as well as notifying the subcommittee about the application and interview process underway. Councilman Nicholson, I want to first give the floor to you for your reflections and your feedback.
Sure, yeah. We were able to, myself and the Council President Pro Tem were able to meet with Ms. Dorakovic and went through her experience. I was particularly impressed by her experience in recruitment and training with personnel, as well as her background in education. A big part of human resources is orienting and developing staff, as well as really cultivating our training programs. This council is taking great care to, and the administration to put dollars towards training and staff. So I think that is certainly something that she'll bring to the table that'll be very different from what we've had in the past. I also most recently experienced between tenant and as well as DMC, but that is really why I felt like she would be a strong candidate coming in, is to just kind of help change and mold that communication and culture piece that we've been missing.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion before us, council members. Councilwoman James.
Yes, I'd just like to ask, how many employees did you service at the Detroit Medical Center?
Currently, it's about 11 to 1,500.
Okay.
I want to ask a follow-up question to that.
Yes.
Can you share about what the human resources team was like that you were?
So right now, it's myself, the HR director, and I have a senior human resources business consultant under me. And so the two of us support our REM, which is Rehabilitation Institute of Michigan, as well as our laboratories and our Detroit market.
Thank you. Further discussion from council?
I just have my normal question.
Councilman Parker, you have the floor.
I always just have my normal question. Why did you want to leave that bastion of sun and shine at DMC to come up here?
The sun shining at DMC, huh? DMC is a great hospital to receive care. I have been in healthcare for a very long time, and I am looking to switch industries and to take what I have learned in the 20 plus years that I have accumulated in human resources and bring it here to the city of Pontiac.
Okay. But I'm also curious, you only, according to your resume, you've only worked there about 6 months.
Well, I've been in the role for about 6 months, but I have been at the DMC, which encompasses TPR, which is our Detroit Medical Group. I was there since 2019 as a human resources manager.
Mayor Grimal?
Yeah, Tenet is the owner of TPR.
Yes.
And Tenet owns DMC Hospital as well. So although there are two different roles, and one is really with a group of physicians versus the hospital, she has been with the same family of companies since 2019.
Yes, sir.
And my last question.
Yes, sir.
How effective have you been in writing job descriptions and making sure that they have been adhered to by the department heads?
So very experienced in job descriptions and reviewing them, writing them, and implementing them. I do that by having meetings with department heads, going over the policies, job descriptions, so they understand why they're there and how important it is to follow those policies and job descriptions. If they have questions, I answer those questions for them. I feel that education is the best way to get people to do things you need them to do, have them understand the why behind it. And so by doing that, I can get them to do what I need them to do so we both can be successful in our roles.
Okay.
Councilwoman Rutherford, followed by Councilwoman James. Or is there anything further, Councilman Parker?
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming from the forefront of medicine to come to the forefront of municipality government.
My pleasure.
Councilwoman Rutherford.
So my question is, what outlets are you going to be using when you're going to be giving out information about jobs? In the past, there's been very limited resources we use. They use Indeed. They use LinkedIn, and oftentimes those are not great places for people to look for jobs because it doesn't give you an opportunity to describe exactly what you want in detail. So which resources will you be using and different tool sets that you'll be using? And my second part is, will you be having active job fairs? Because there's a lot of jobs that are available that people in the community simply don't know about, haven't heard about, and then by the time they hear about it, the job has already been given in-house.
So job fairs are very important because it has that human interaction. So we're able to talk to you, you can talk to us, and we're kind of have like a brief mini interview right there on the spot. So then that way, if we have them here in Pontiac and make it available for the residents to come and actually submit their resume, ask questions, see if that's the right job for them. I think that's very important because not everybody has access to the internet to go online and to apply for jobs, or some are not very versed in going online and applying for jobs. Some people like that old school way to come in, to talk to someone, to have that one-on-one connection. So I think job fairs are very important here in the city. You're welcome.
Councilwoman James.
Yes, I wanted to ask about quality audits. Are you familiar with, did your organization do quality audits, you know, of departments to make sure that the employees are following the job descriptions, the objectives of the departments are being carried out? Have you ever done a quality audit?
So we do competencies, which every year we do competencies on our staff. They're not all the same because it depends on what position they have. So those competencies are very important to see if they're still able to do their jobs, they still have the skills to perform their jobs. Also with the audits that I do, it's mostly HR audits. We go through the files, ensure that their licensures are up to date, to ensure that those competencies, those annual reviews are in those files as well. So when the Joint Commission comes in, or if CARF comes in, or CMS, to do tracers to ensure that the nurse, the PCA, and the surgeon are all qualified to do their job.
Are those done by in-house or outside people?
They're done in-house.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion on the motion before us? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Clerk Doyle, roll call on adoption of the resolution approving the appointment of Linda Durakovich as the Human Resources Director for the City of Pontiac.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
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 7 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and Linda Durakovich has now been appointed as the Human Resources Director. Congratulations, Director. All right, we're at number 10 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt
So
the
moved.
resolution? It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford. Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. This is the resolution approving the conditional rezoning agreement for 729 Linda Vista and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement. At last week's city council meeting, there was a conditional rezoning that was approved by the city council. Traditionally, this would have been handled at that same meeting, but staff was anticipating that it was going to be postponed, which it ultimately was not. Council rendered a verdict. So that's the only reason why it's orphaned on the following week. Otherwise, it would be on the same. And so we give the floor to the administration and staff to explain the purpose of the conditional rezoning agreement. Mayor Grimo.
Yeah, thank you, President McGinnis. So as we discussed last week, this was a proposed rezoning which was adopted by City Council and approved by City Council. And it was approved for rezoning with additional conditions. So it was changed to C3 zoning, a commercial district zoning category. But it was restricted even further than that because it would not allow for all C3 uses. It restricted those uses below what would normally be allowed in a C3 district. And in order to effectuate those additional restrictions beyond what a C3 district would normally allow, it's necessary for the applicant for the rezoning and the city to enter into an agreement. And so this simply would authorize the city to enter into an agreement with the applicant, further restricting the uses as described last week to make it even more restrictive than a C3 zoning district normally would be. Now, I understand, Planning Manager Yandrick, that there's a correction that needs to be made to the conditional rezoning agreement that was in the packet. Is that
correct?
accurate?
The second condition is not listed in the packet this evening. Clerk Doyle has the rest of the updated agreements, and I believe are being passed out. Yep. So
that second condition is the prohibition on outside storage.
That
is
is
that right?
correct. Yeah.
And that was added as a condition to prohibit outside storage at this site. But in the version that was included in the council packet, that restriction was omitted, and the version that is being distributed by Clerk Doyle includes that restriction, which is prohibiting any outdoor storage at the Mark Twain site so that neighbors don't have to worry about clutter being stored outside on that site. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And that condition was included in City Council's decision last week. That second condition was for prohibiting outside storage was under their consideration and their approval. So if there are any questions, I've got Morgan from the Kelly firm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Ms. Morgan, how you doing tonight? I know some of these answers already, but I'm going to ask you some questions because this is really for the community. So I'm going to ask these questions. Concerning this agreement, the council passed last week, passed a conditional rezoning 4-3. And not passing these conditions, how does that affect this particular project? Or does it slow it down, or does it hinder that project from happening?
Good evening, Council. That's a great question. So what is before you tonight is not the conditional rezoning. That was already passed last week. That is not being addressed in this vote at all. The only thing that is before the Council tonight is giving the mayor the ability to execute this agreement. And this agreement is required by the ordinance. So under the City of Pontiac zoning ordinance, conditional rezonings are allowed. That was what you guys approved last week, that conditional rezoning ordinance. Our zoning ordinance requires that the city then execute what is called a conditional rezoning agreement. This agreement that is before you tonight just protects the city and specifies the obligations of the developer to make sure that everything is done correctly. That agreement, if approved, is then recorded with the Register of Deeds so that any future purchasers of this property will be aware that this development was, or this property was rezoned conditionally. They'll be aware of those conditions and the obligations that are required under the ordinance. It also specifically states that under the Pontiac zoning ordinance, if the obligations of the developer are not completed within 2 years, then this property will automatically revert to its initial zoning district. So frankly, we're not reconsidering the conditional rezoning. That's already done. That is not being addressed by this council tonight. What is before you is making sure that these additional protections for the city and its residents are elaborated clearly in an agreement that is binding on this developer.
Thank you. No further questions.
Further discussion. Councilman Parker.
I have one question, and that is concerning the complaint that Mr. Wilson logged earlier in his comments. Does that have to be answered before we vote on this? Or was that what the city clerk did earlier today? Does his complaint have to be answered?
It does not have to be answered, but I can address it if this council would like me to.
I think so. I think that'd be appropriate.
I will say I worked specifically with the clerk's office, and I also worked with Planner Yandrick to address the protest petition. Clerk Doyle thoroughly reviewed that protest petition. He made sure that each signature was verified, and he extensively communicated with the individual that circulated that petition. That petition did not reach the threshold under the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to be considered a protest petition that would require that extra vote. So it is not a protest petition that would then trigger that additional vote before or from the council last week. So the amount of people that voted on the conditional rezoning last week was the amount of people that needed to vote on that conditional rezoning for it to be effective.
And he can't go back and add any more?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the motion before us? It's the resolution approving the conditional rezoning agreement for 729.
Yeah, just one final question. I just want to make sure that we understand this vote. So if this is not approved, and this is for me because, I voted no last week, so I want to make sure that I understand. I really understand, but I just want the community to continue to hear this. That if this doesn't pass, then there's no conditions on that rezoning. Am I correct?
That's not correct. So
Okay.
the ordinance that was adopted last week does have those conditions on it.
Okay.
But the zoning ordinance in the city of Pontiac requires the city to enter into this specific agreement. And you'll see, I think the agreement before you is 8 or 9 pages. And it very clearly delineates the obligations of the developer. Whereas the ordinance that you adopted last week, while it does contain those conditions, is very short. In fact, I think the actual language that was adopted is about a third of a page. So without adopting this conditional rezoning agreement, those conditions don't go away, but you don't have all the protections that this agreement that is required under the zoning ordinance provides. And additionally, this agreement is going to be recorded with the Register of Deeds, which provides further protections for both the city and anyone who's looking to purchase this property in the future if that does occur.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call and adoption of the resolution approving the conditional rezoning agreement for 729 Linda Vista and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement. Clerk Doyle.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes. That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and the mayor is authorized to execute that conditional rezoning agreement. We are now at public comment. Pro Tem Carrington, who's first up at the opportunity for the community to speak their mind.
Mr. Robert Bass.
I haven't stopped your clock. I haven't started the clock yet. I think the microphone needs to be turned on, bottom to the right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir. My name is Robert Bass, and first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to our former council lawyer, Monique Sharp. She just got an appointment to the bench. To the bench. She's going to be a judge.
Yes.
So I want to congratulate her for that, and I'm glad I waited to get an answer on what was the problem with number 10, which you just addressed, and I do understand it, although I'm still disappointed that you did it because there's another batch of fingers in the till to take federal funds and state funds from people who really need it, that it has not been getting to. And I said I was going to advocate for that, and that's what I'm doing. The residents that really need the funding, the ARPA funding, all the federal funding, block grant funding, is not receiving and has not received that money. That's why we have a large number of homeless people, because we promised to do things that never got done, because once the funding ran out for OSHA and OSHA and Lighthouse, then the program was ended. It never picked back up. So-called same thing with those people that get out of prison and looking for jobs. They were promised. They was even at the Salvation Army at one point. Program ended a little after a lot of people went into the program, and they were right back where they started. And that's my problem. For far too long, those people that really need the money that comes from the federal government have not been receiving it and still not receiving it to the degree that it's helping them get out of the position that they're in. We are 20% poverty level. And the county the state is at 13. How long are we going to allow ourselves to stay stagnated into this area where we have the ability, we have the proficiency to do it, but we're not doing it? We're taking steps to go backwards rather than forward because we keep making mistakes that should have been cleared up by now. We're making the same old mistakes. And the money is still not getting to the people that really needs it. There's always an excuse. There's always a red line. There's always something that stops them people from getting that money. And with that, I say thank you for my time.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Mr. Quincy Stewart? Mr. Maxey?
And I just want to point out what Mr. Bass said is really fantastic news. The City Council at a future meeting will take up a resolution formally celebrating, but that a former City of Pontiac staff member who worked for the Pontiac City Council, Attorney Monique Sharp, has just been appointed a judge by the governor of Michigan, serving on the bench in Detroit and Wayne County. And so we're extremely enthused and proud, and we want to put that on the record. So thank you, Mr. Bass, for emphasizing that. The agenda was already set when the news broke. By the time that news broke from the state of Michigan. Mr. Maxey, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac at large. I have two announcements to make, both as a community activist and a civil rights activist and military. Number one, there will be a military veterans parade on the 11th of November. We'll have flyers later with more information, but we will have a parade in Pontiac this year. The I's have been dotted, the T's have been crossed, and we've got the okay from the city. Secondly, important is that on the 11th, on the 13th of November, the Citizens District Community Forum on Equity and Social Equality Economics. We're talking about, we'll be getting in design and discussing how can we as citizens in this neighborhood empower ourselves together, collecting and coordinating our resources. It will be an empowerment forum. This is strictly non-political. We are asking all citizens who believe that they have empowerment power to meet at the library at 6 p.m. Your voices will be heard. You will be at the table of design and decision making. It's time that we as a community, neighborhood, individuals and collectively understand that we not only have power, but this is an empowerment move. If you have any questions about this meeting at the library on the 13th, a Citizen Empowerment Forum, I'll be here next week. And this is all I'm going to say about we, the citizens of this city, are empowered. We go beyond the power, and we will be exercising our voices as to how we will design action, challenges to resolve some of the many problems that we have in this city. We want resolutions. We don't need crisis whatsoever. We need to get our voices together and bring a resolution to the many challenges that we have. Thank you very much. My name is H.B.O. Maxey, community activist, and I've approved this message.
Thank you, Mr. Maxey. Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
Thank you. Mr. Bass already covered the topic about the ARP funding. I wanted to, I'll just touch upon that since he did, that the home repair program has never been completely developed. And you're starting the small business program, but so many people never got even a chance to apply for the home repair program. We brought it to the city. It was supposed to be available to so many people, and there were people standing around the city hall who never could even get an application. It's closed down the first day. So I hope that's a management problem, and I hope that you will find that $10 million that you took out so we can use it for people who need it for home repair. So I just wanted to do that. The new employees, congratulations for getting the new employees. It's going to be kind of a revolving door here in terms of upper echelon. I understand the DPW director is gone now. Is that what I hear? And after a 25-year employee was fired, this is the third HR director in the last 10 months of this administration. As I pointed to you before, the first HR director was fired because of the day after she complained about unauthorized people being able to access confidential records, personnel records. So, these are just things that strike toward a bad tone and what's going on administration-wise. But what I really wanted to address was the Mark Twain project in District 6. And there's a lot of hullabaloo this evening about the petitions and, whether the petitions were legitimate or not. But that's beside the point. Anytime you get 142 residents who say, don't do that to my home front, anytime you do that, that should be the prevailing thought. So, for example, I'm in District 2. My district person is out there in the hallway somewhere talking, but District 2, Brett Nicholson, is my councilman. And I assure you that if 142 people in District 2 sign anything, anybody in Frontier Highlands, I guarantee you he would not come to District 2. But yet he voted, it's okay for it to come to the Knolls, where it wouldn't have been for District 2. So that's the problem we have, and that's the concern. And so that is something that now you have doubled down on that, council, with the administration having done that. And it's just a problem for people, and we'll continue to do that and to support these neighborhood groups that want to be heard. We're not having the vote for recreational marijuana. You've already gotten that taken care of. But, that first vote we had, and maybe you didn't want that to happen again, the first vote the people had, it only passed by one vote. And when it was recounted, it couldn't be recounted because the canvassers, the ballot boxes were not properly closed, so it could never be canvassed and recounted. So I guess we don't want to repeat that. But there's some questions that still remain about what's happening with recreational marijuana from the lawsuits, and that'll come up that haven't been answered yet.
Mr. Paul Wilson.
On behalf of the 130-plus District 6 Pontiac citizens who signed petitions about the council's agenda item regarding rezoning the Mark Twain school site from R1 to R3, there are several conditions which we collectively are challenging. Number one, the council proceeded with the vote, even though the posted agenda for this item contained the misleading statement, the Planning Division is requesting to postpone adoption of this agenda, of this ordinance. Since the vote was taken away, it is not clear what was the intention of such notions unless it was intentionally put there to deceive citizens who had planned to come to protest the action into thinking that the matter would not be taken up at this meeting. Number two, although I have repeatedly informed and supplied the city clerk with petitions, he has refused to conduct an official review of the petitions and to give an official notice of their legitimacy. All we've received are casual, non-committal responses which we challenge as being inaccurate and inappropriate. Lastly, moreover, the citizens who signed the petitions are aggravated that their input and concerns about passage of this item were ignored, and that this display of disrespect to this established neighborhood community is disappointing and harmful to their peaceful enjoyment of their properties. Lastly, we trust that this administration and its elected officials of the council will reconsider their stance on this project and rectify the disruption that would be caused to our neighborhood by continually pursuing this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Ms. Renee Beckley.
I'm not going to be nice at all, so get ready. You wandered in a place where I live. You came in my neighborhood. And then William, you're weak. You're weak for a man because you could have told the rest of them, no, don't vote for this way. I know Melanie's wild as all get out, so she's going to do whatever she wanted to do, but you could have got the rest of these men. But they're not man enough to realize that somebody lives there. Do they want to hear a plant across the street and behind them? That's a factory. A factory. I know what factory is. Make electric batteries. Those things are explosive. The bicycles explode. You can't get on an airplane with that type of battery. A train, anyway, they have to specially have a special way to transport those types of batteries. And you're going to put that in the middle of the neighborhood. I have no respect for this council. I have, what is it, what the police say, no, something for the chief, I forgot what it was. No confidence in you. No confidence in the mayor. I think there's something going on with that funder, between the funder and this person with the company. I get no hits. I have not seen a website on this company. I pulled it up, Arco or something. I have the correct spelling at home. Nothing. Is this a dummy company for you just to get the money? Is something going on with this council? If you live in other districts, don't vote for your present council person, because they're going around the city. There's also something going on with them and the school board. Everywhere there's a school. They just did one tonight, Webster School. They're going to shut down one lane in M59. They did something in my neighborhood. That's a school. Mark Twain. So Mike and William both came from the school board. Gil Garrett's the president. As they helping him out dumping stuff, garbage. Just plain garbage that we don't want. Do we have to really sue? There's a lot of lawsuits. I'd like to pull one on y'all. I think I will. Just for this. So you add another one. You, Tim, each individual ones that voted for that. Last week, we had 100-something people. That should be enough. Mr. Dog, what you did was gank. It means, that was something like back in the South. How many bars, bubbles in this bar of soap? How fast can you walk up the Empire State Building? You did something equivalent to that. We got the signatures. We don't have, and most of those people is either a landlord or nobody lives there. Where the streets that you had, you just arbitrarily picked that. I never seen a petition like that in my life. It's usually the registered voters that live there in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Beckley. Ms. Carol Wilson.
I just want you to know I'm very sad. I'm sad for this neighborhood that I've lived and my parents lived in since '63. You say this factory's going to bring jobs, and I asked the lady, how many jobs are you going to bring? 15. 15. We're going to build a big old plant so we can hire 15 people. And then she said, oh, it might go up to 30. We're going to build a big old plant so we can hire 30 people. I'm sad that you would do something like that so we can hire 30 people, 15 at the start. Where are we going to get to 30? Oh, it said going to be 200 down the line. Down the line. And you're going to listen to that? Yes, me and my husband went all over this neighborhood because it's our neighborhood. We went all over the neighborhood. We talked to black people. We talked to white people that lived in there. We talked to Spanish people down the street that lives from me. She said, no, we don't want that. So who people are you talking to? Who are the people are you talking to? Are they here? I want to hear from them. I want to hear from them. The only people I've heard so far that you've talked to are out of our district. They're out of our district. You mean the people out of our district is going to tell you how you're going to run what you want in your district. And you're not going to stand up and say, when they said no, when they had the discussion, and you know the people don't want it, and then you tell us, I'm going to vote no. Then why don't you step up and tell them we don't want it? Instead of just sitting back and let the vote just vote it out. The people out of our district. We need to talk for our people in our district like we've been doing, And we've been running all over our district to see what the people want. And the people said no. So who are you listening to? It hurts my heart. And it hurts this district heart. We went over the district. Who are the people you listen? We saw boarded up houses that you say that people wanted in our district. Their house is boarded up. What do they care about the no's?
Your time has concluded.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Ms. Iola Miller.
No. Good evening, Iola Miller. I live on Pensacola Avenue in Pontiac, Michigan. Well, I didn't have a lot. I first wanted to say I was so excited to see this street sweepers come down my street. And they did a really great job. They not only, loosened up the dirt, they came back and picked up the leaves. And my question is that are we as residents supposed to put our leaves on the street now that the street sweepers are coming down? I know the city of Oak Park has some kind of ordinance like that. I personally don't think that's going to work for the city of Pontiac, especially on my street where we have so many mature trees and there'll be an awful lot of leaves in the street. But still, I was glad to see them come down my street. That's great. Thank you. I had a question too. I know the new Mr. Gerhardt. Okay, he's the new clerk, and he talked about in, I think, Dearborn that he championed that project where they had the election center, and I was wondering if he sees something like that in our future here in Pontiac, because I think we need that. Along with all the other ideas you had about early voting center, getting the young kids involved in elections really early. We do need that. And my last observation is about the two communities that had that came before council. The first community, they wanted to put in a 40-unit housing project in that school, and that community came out to the council, and that project was voted down. And when they came out with, I'm going to assume the petition was correct, and they had 300 votes, but nobody talked about blight, that school being blighted. In the Mark Twain community, you heard that a lot, that school was blighted. And when I talked to my councilman about it, I talked about blight can be remediated, but the trust in your community, that's harder to build back. I know you guys have a really hard job, and that decision was hard. It's like, you want to bring new projects to Pontiac. We need new buildings. We need to see that something is happening in our community. And building that project in that neighborhood, at least we can see that something is being built, that we're moving forward. So, it's a hard call. Another observation about the petitions that were circulated. I think what I observed is that within 100 feet of that community, all those houses were owner-occupied housing. That's why they were able to get the petition signed by the owners, and it made a difference in their community. In this community, most of those people, the owners were out of state, and they don't really live there, and they don't care about that community. That community has less clout and less power because they don't have home ownership. I think what we should concentrate is to have more occupied owner housing in Pontiac. And that's my observations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Mr. Mika Ramsey.
As Ms. Ramsey's coming up, Mayor, do you want to really quickly answer the leaf question so that way it doesn't get lost?
No,
in the
I
shuffle?
appreciate the opportunity to say that. First of all, I'm glad that more and more people are seeing the street sweepers as they make their way through the community. I know that there was quite a delay in that because one of those street sweepers was not delivered until about a month ago, and the other street sweeper had a lot of mechanical challenges. But I know they're getting around finally, and we are still optimistic that they will get to every neighborhood before winter. But to answer the question about the leaves, no. Pontiac does not allow and still will not allow people to rake the leaves out into the street. That creates a lot of problems with or without street sweepers. It creates a lot of problems, including those leaves plugging up stormwater sewer lines. And so it is a big, big problem when people do that. And that is not allowed under the city's ordinance. So I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. Instead, people should be bagging those leaves, and those leaves will be picked up by GFL on specific weeks in November coming up. And we'll do more, as we did last year, to get out the specific timelines of those pickups.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Your time can proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. Those with power often control the narrative. I am an activist, a business owner, and a resident. For all but 3 years of my life, I have lived in Pontiac. I started my business in 2015. I have never, ever received any money from the city of Pontiac to do the work that I do. Not a dime. And people think that I do. They think that I'm on payroll or something, because my job is to help small businesses. And I started that because when I started my business, the administration that was in office could care less about small businesses, didn't do anything to help or support small businesses. And so I saw that gap, and I worked really hard to fill it. And how I fill that gap is, outside of Pontiac, I work really hard and get paid a lot of money. And that money then comes back into this community, and I subsidize the work that I do. I pay people out of my profits from other clients outside of this city, outside of this state, to be able to support the businesses in Pontiac, because the administration that was around when I started my business was not doing that. My goal and hope was that once we got a new mayor, because I was working really hard to make sure that happened, was that I could give it over to the city, because that's where it actually belongs. And I understand, and I've been telling people, it's like somebody who has been sick for 10 years, like drinking and smoking and doing bad things, going to the doctors and expecting the doctor to heal them in 2 days. And so I knew that there would be some time that lapsed with this new administration. But here it is 1.5 years later, and I'm still filling in the gaps with my own resources. Not only that, I'm getting word that people up there are saying the only reason I come up here to complain that y'all are moving too slow is because I need money. Well, I do. I need my own money. And if y'all do y'all job, I could keep my money. So I don't ever want anybody who is sitting on that side of the dais to ever question my intention on why I do things. It hurts my feelings and it makes me want to stop. And the only reason that I don't is because the business owners who have been neglected by this city for almost 10 years would be the casualties. And I refuse to let that happen because some of y'all don't know what you're talking about. I also want to say that the fact that we allow people to come up here and talk who used to do some of the jobs that y'all are doing and are currently under federal investigation, currently fired people who had COVID because they wouldn't come in, put their hands on people, just treated people poorly, then come up here and act like they have clean hands. That is just crazy. And I would appreciate, I know y'all not doing everything that y'all could or should be doing. I know that together we can do better, but coming up here and saying things that are not true creates chaos in the community. It gives people false hope or it gives people false information, and then they create plans and do things in their lives with that wrong information. So if we got problems with people, can we be grown-ups and go to them and stop using this mic to spread disinformation? Because it creates chaos in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Mr. Chuck Johnson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, those of you here in the audience and those of you at home watching by television. I want to start with, I made a couple of notes here. The flock cameras. We need those cameras in our city, Mayor and Council. As soon as we can get them around our city, that probably will solve some of those problems that we're having, especially with the 2 deaths of those individuals. That probably will help the police department solve those problems. We need flock cameras all over the city of Pontiac. Number one on my little comment note here, I'm glad to know that all the new hires was introduced here, and it's good to bring these new hires forward so we can see who they are and so on. I was at a meeting at the Bowen Center this evening as it related to the Huron Street M59 project. It's got to come in front of the council, but you know what, council? This is something that you need to vote no on and try and encourage the county or the state to open up Perry Street and get it back operating the way it should be. Number 3, I made a note here. I don't quite understand why the city has to hire someone to watch over contracts and contractors. A contractor should have his own watchdogs to know when a project is getting behind the gun or under the gun or how much money is being spent. Why should we hire somebody to watch them? They should watch themselves. Let's see. I guess I got a little water poured on my real main topic this evening, but I want to make sure that the council understands that when I brought forward my comments about the junk equipment that we spend in excess of $1 million for, I want you to know that I was not kidding. And even from the mayor's comment yet this evening indicated that we had challenges with some of these sweepers. How can you spend $2 million on a brand new piece of equipment and the first 2 or 3, 6 months out of the year that we have them, have not done a dollar's worth of work? I fault you council people for that, for allowing the administration to spend those millions of dollars for stuff that does not function. Now, we've got a truck. At least it's my understanding we've got a truck that we bought at that auction. This, and I submit it's still junk, sitting at a truck dealership for repairs, and it can't be repaired. because it's a Ford product that Ford used as a design truck. Now, we got that piece of junk, and we're going to spend a lot of money to get it on the road. We're going to have snow here pretty quick, and we don't have all the equipment necessary to do our snow plowing. Now, my time is out, but we cannot afford to spend all these dollars on equipment that's laying up or sitting up, and then somebody comes and say, well, we saw them on our street today, or the mayor say, well, you know, we got them out doing this and doing that. Finally, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Darlene Clark. Ms. Darlene Clark.
Good afternoon again, once again. My name is Darlene Clark. Understand this very clear at this conversation I'm getting ready to have with you with the residents of Pontiac, and maybe the council will listen to me, but expectation of that happening is very slim. So I'm putting this out for the residents and the people of Pontiac. Understand that the council people, I'm talking as a resident, I got to make that very clear. The confusion that the people are having today in every conversation in the last 2 years that I've been here is a lack of confusion. You say, the council say that they want to hear from the people, but once they hear from the people, they get shut down. Once they start hearing from the people, they do not take the considerations of the voice, appears to not to take the consideration of what the people are trying to say. Understand this, once I said before, each council represents their own district. Each problem within their district is that of their council. The people is very confused on the act that the council is acting with the administration. You have one person, and I'm in District 1, so I can say this. I am in District 1, 506 Nebraska. I see all and hear all that go in District 1 and all over Pontiac. But we have a council person who has showed her conduct. The council people took an oath, the conduct of office. Once again, I say the people all over the world is actually looking at this from California, Florida, and other places. They watch our council one person get up, walk out the door. They watch the faces that has been made. Now, the person who's doing this taping, he's not deleting anything. He shows the expression, he shows the attitude, he shows the end comment and trying to defend her actions. But what appears to be very confusing, that the council, other 6 council condone her actions and not put her in check, which is bringing confusion within the district. People have come to this podium and said, please listen to what's happening. You make excuses for what she's doing. She's not here to defend herself, but I'm quite sure at the end of her 3-minute speech, she's going to come up with a very good closing argument. Now, she's saying to you that about my reputation, I never told the person I work for the federal government, but what you quite don't understand, I work for the state. But what the part that trumps all of that, I live in Pontiac and pay taxes. And once I pay my taxes, that gives me and everyone in the city of Pontiac to have a voice. Our voice is to be heard, because when you want my tax money to pay for my property taxes, you sending me letters every day, all day until it go into foreclosure. And I recognize I only have 8 minutes left, but this message is for Mr. Tim Grimel. The Mayor Tim Grimel. The Gurge has had, I have been attending the Gurge meeting every month. It has come to the conclusion that it doesn't look like from other people that we're going to get a resolution to the problem of the $400 and more. Could you please, as the mayor of the city of Pontiac, and I don't beg, and I'm not begging now, but I'm putting it for the people to understand, to know that I did ask you this question. Give them an update. Give them an update, because you said it in 2 meetings that you were getting ready to go to court to find a resolution. Now, you told that to Gurge me, but you didn't tell that to the people. Please give the people an update.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Gloria Miller.
You know, I want to first start, and I'm not going to be nice tonight either, because after what happened last week, all bets are off. Never was on, but it's on now. Ms. Wilson, my heart to you. But you know one thing about me, a lot of people probably don't know this, but God got you. When somebody do you wrong, they're going to pay. If this council's not doing the right thing, guess what? He's going to pay. You may not know it, but he does. That's why I can stand here and speak my piece, because I know who I am and whose I am. Yes, Mr. Carrington should have stood up for you. It's no way if I was your council person, nobody would have voted for that. I said, no, that's my district. It's hard to find a real man, Mr. Max, around here. I'm used to real men. I grew up with real men. I got 7 brothers, real men. What happened? Mr. Bass, you won, by the way, letting you know. You don't work with me on many things. Mr. Maxey, you won. You guys taught me a lot, and I appreciate you. But I know crap when I see it. This administration, this council is nothing but a piggy bank for the mayor. Yes, yes. It's already done when you get here. Ma'am, that project was done months ago. It was done months ago. But it's not the only one. They just happen to come in your district. It's a lot of stuff they've been doing beforehand. And by the way, she's not here. Mrs. Rutherford brought me up last week. You go personal with me? That's not good. You could travel me, you can follow me all day long. You ain't gonna see me doing nothing but with my grandkids and trying to take care of my business and live right. Not that they're trying to hustle anybody, lie. That's not who I am. I'm just a straight shooter. Mr. Brett Nicholson, would you guys tell him to come to work? I know that's on camera. Every time you look at it, Ms. Rutherford, him, they not here. When I was on the council, and I won't mention their name, when they didn't come to work, I called my colleagues out in private. Say, if you don't do something about it, then I did. Guess what I did? I came out and said, no, I'm not going to vote them absent because he's missing too many meetings. But I noticed last week when you wanted to do your vote for your district, he was here. Yeah. See, I'm just trying to show Pontiac who I am. This is who I am. Pay attention. When they want to vote, they go get each other. When you stand for the people, you can stand tall and you can do the right thing. It's a lot of things going on with this council. It's not right. And by the way, look at your city cars. Your chief sign is gone. Our chief sign is gone. Our chief sign is gone. They slowly dismantling Pontiac what we used to know, or what we used to know. Total disrespect up there. I'm glad you home, Ms. Rutherford. I have never really called you out. You brought me up last week. That was my husband. Guess what? If I'm standing up bad enough standing here, I ain't scared of no damn body. You don't scare me because all I do for my constituent is work hard. And I know game when I see game. And this council, you ought to be ashamed of yourself what you let her get away with. It's all over the community.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That concludes our public comment.
Order in the chambers. Public comment is concluded. We're now at discussions. Number 11 on the agenda. City Council's 2023 Pontiac Pride and Beautification Awards reception and process successfully concluded. I wanted to say a special thank you to the City Council's Chief of Staff, Sharika Hawkins, Administrative Assistant, and Angelita Santiago for the work that they did. And for the community members that were able to participate. It was a really wonderful celebration, and it set the stage for us to have the reception return. It's been quite a few years, upwards of nearly 2 decades since we last had the award celebration, and we're grateful that the City Council was able to bring that back so we can continue to grow that process. At that award celebration, we also introduced the newest member of the Pontiac City Council team, the staff member, Mr. James McQueen of Pontiac, Michigan, who will be joining as our outreach specialist starting next week. So he was on hand, and we introduced him to the community members present. Any final discussion from community members about the Pride Beautification Awards process or the reception? Councilman Rutherford, followed by Councilman Goodman.
I have some awards that need to be given out in District 1. Miss Wright is in the people that you nominated. I got updates, so I have to give them to you to have you give them out to them. So I'll be bringing them to you after the meeting. You're welcome. That's it.
Councilman Goodman?
Just for my remembrance, when did we start the process for Pride Beautification this year?
May. And the process, now that we have a fully staffed out Pontiac City Council team and staff. Our hope is to begin even earlier in the process, earlier in the year, so that way it can be as engaging as possible, get maximum participation, and celebrate, encourage, and incentivize Pontiac residents to go the extra mile.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on this item? Hearing no further discussion, the next item. I briefly mentioned this during our moment of silence, but I want to make sure the community know that information is needed still about the early morning Saturday, October 28th hit and run crash that took place on University Drive near Kenilworth. What's that? Okay, thank you. The community is asked if you have any information about the incident, please call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP. A reward is offered for information leading to an arrest in the case, and tipsters are able to remain anonymous. So we want to make sure that the community knows about that. And again, our heart goes out to the victim's family. Any other discussion on that item? All right. The next discussion item, it's really an FYI. This information came out after we had last week's city council meeting. I saw in the newspaper that they were having the public meeting with the Michigan Department of Transportation. It was mentioned that a few community members were here in the audience tonight that were here. That was held earlier this evening. And so normally we would, of course, want to announce and encourage that people knew about that, but it was just where it fell when we heard about it. It was in between city council meetings. So I wanted to have it on the agenda so that way in case anyone saw the posted agenda, you would have that information about the public meeting. It was brought up in public comment or agenda address a few times. This change and this action has not been prompted by the city council. We had that presentation a few months ago, maybe it was a few weeks ago, and that was the first formal notification that the city council received about that action. And we just want to continue as they continue to make their plans, make sure that the community receives that information. But really, it was an FYI. I want to make sure everyone knew about that informational meeting that had been scheduled. Not related to this project, but the mayor and his team have announced another informational meeting on a different series of road projects. One's State Street, and the other is MLK Boulevard. That's coming up in mid-November, so you got a few weeks still before that takes place. I'm sorry I don't have that committed to memory. It might be later in the communications, but I just want to flag that. We'll have that included in next week's agenda since we'll have some time as well. But just wanted to flag that later in November there will be a community meeting in these chambers, city council chambers, about State Street improvements and MLK Boulevard north of M59. Any discussion on that item? Okay. All right, the next two discussion items were requested by Councilwoman James. Want to give her the floor. Number 14, gauging council's perspective and considering next steps for community benefits requirements for future development projects in Pontiac. Councilwoman James, want to give the floor for you to start that discussion. It can be an ongoing conversation, but you wanted to pursue it further. I'm going to do a point of personal privilege just to use the restroom, and I'll be right back. Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you, President McGinnis.
Yes, I wanted to take some time to gauge community council perspective on this. And what I would like to see is the city to request an RFP, a request for proposal to provide some assistance to our economic development manager with writing the community benefits ordinance. That needs to be done. There's a lot that ordinance needs to be able to define of the things that this council wants to see, more residents being involved in the contractual things that the city gets into, and in addition, just being able to provide maximum resources for our residents. In order to really make that real, we've got to get it written and documented in a community benefits ordinance. So I kind of would just like to see where people are thinking. My thought is that we have reached out we have utilized consultants and for just about everything that's come up for the city, because we were short manpower in the city. We have had brought in people to help planning with their catching up on their work and so many other areas. And here's an area where we really, really need to get started with a state-of-the-art community benefits package. And I see no reason why, in my mind, that we shouldn't reach out to a company or a consultant that can help us to pull that together.
Thank you, Councilwoman James. Any other, Councilman Goodman?
I absolutely agree. I am of the belief that we should have figured this out when we first got in office. There is no reason why there is any development happening in this city, especially larger development, that is not tied to community benefits going to the citizens of Pontiac. I mean, the fact that the previous administration allowed in multiple large developments with essentially just at which you could call at the very best sometimes just very generous handouts, but we have not done anything to actually make sure that the city of Pontiac and its citizens truly benefit from development in a way that is beyond just having either a vacant building be filled or having a shiny new item within our city limits. Yeah. There needs to be something that's actively done to make sure that our citizens actually benefit from things. So I am wholeheartedly in favor of it. The one pushback that I do have is you mentioned consultant. And while that's important in making sure that we do it in a legal and above board way, I think a community benefits ordinance is only as useful as it is having community input. So we need to make sure that we find some way to make sure that the community itself, in however way we decide that, has input on a community benefits ordinance. But other than that, I am 100%, 150% on board with you in that aspect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I just want to echo what Councilman Goodman said, that obviously other municipalities have been, making headway with this approach. And my understanding of those other ordinances is that it is codified. It's built in there in terms of public engagement that's required, those public meetings that are required specific to the proposed community benefits before they're even acted on. So we'll definitely want to look to what best practices have been working with other municipalities, because it seems like it's getting traction, it's gaining results for benefits being received for the community. Others who wish to be next on the speakers list? All right, so anything further, Councilwoman James? I mean, obviously this will be an ongoing conversation.
Well, I think that, the city is fortunate to have someone with the background of Deborah Younger, who is very, very knowledgeable about economic development, has a wonderful background, and so she would be the person to, work with identifying the right consulting firm to take this on. And I agree with you 100%, Councilman Goodman, that we definitely want to have community engagement and involvement in this process, but I just don't think we can wait any longer. Deborah is only one person. She is totally overwhelmed already with all of the things that we have going on in the city, and I just don't see that we need to wait any longer because of her limitation. I think it's time for us to bring on some help for her and support for her so that we can get this process started.
Councilman Rutherford?
So my question is for the administration. What are we doing to get this process rolling? And before you answer that, I'm asking this, were we waiting for us to get a permanent HR person? And if so, what's the timeline to get her some assistance so that she's not overwhelmed? Because she's handling minimal projects, for example, making sure all the kiosks work. And that's something someone else could be doing, especially now that Daryl Earl is no longer with us. What is the administration doing to ensure that she has assistance at this time, if anything? I yield to the mayor.
Yeah, she had as you just noted, she had a person on her staff who just left for a higher paying job with the county. So I'll just say that in my conversations with Manager Younger, and it's unfortunate she's not here tonight to speak directly to this, but she alluded to this a week or two ago when this topic came up. Her view is not that the limitation on moving forward with community benefits is about her staffing capacity or about organizational capacity. Her view is that it's premature to do that until we have a robust workforce development program. So I want to be really clear about Manager Younger's perspective on this. And, you know, again, she's not here to speak to it directly, but her view is that a community benefits ordinance that requires local hiring only really works if you have robust workforce development in the community. And so, again, I would encourage council to have that conversation with Manager Younger about her views on this.
So my follow-up is this. We have several projects that's coming down the pipeline. When will the wage study be done? I'm only asking because it's a sidebar, but what's the direct timeline when this wage study will be completed? Because I do know in the past, in speaking to Deborah Younger, the economic specialist position pays $55K, and that's been a problem because she has not been able to get people to apply for that job due to the pay. And I know you're doing a comprehensive study of wages and stuff. So my question very simply is, what is the actual date when this wage study will be completed? I yield again to the mayor.
I mean, I'd have to get the consultant on the phone right now to find out the latest in terms of an exact date, Councilwoman.
Okay, the question was asked but not answered. You were asking for the whole city staff, not just managers and directors.
Right.
Though. Okay,
But
so we'll seek that response from the administration.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on number 14?
Yeah,
Councilwoman James.
I would like to know, you know, what the next steps look like. If we need further discussion, when are we going to have those discussions? Because this is something we need to move forward with. So what will the next step look like? Are we going to put it into a subcommittee for subcommittee discussion and ask that subcommittee to bring the results of that discussion back to our council meeting? How are we going to handle it?
The next Economic Development, Housing, and Planning Subcommittee is this coming Monday. So we can delve into that at the subcommittee meeting in terms of hashing out what our timeline and next steps could be for how we want to start the process.
Okay.
But you and I can debrief after that to hear, you know, what the administration's offering up, and then we can chart a course forward for when we should be expecting some concrete proposals.
Okay, so your economic and development is going to discuss it and then bring a update when we do our subcommittee meetings?
We could do that definitely for the community and the council, but you and I can debrief after that as well to hear what the administration shared as well.
Okay.
Council leadership will put our heads together on that. Anything else on number 14 discussion? Hearing nothing further, the final discussion item, gauging council's perspective on North Oakland County Resources Recycling Authority concept. Councilman James also requested this item on the agenda. Mayor Grimal can speak, of course, to where we are in the timeline for the current waste hauling contract, the sanitation contract for city services, but why now is a really key time to decide what are the elements or services for the public that we want to have in what we're taking for, you know, out to bid, so to speak, or what we're taking to pursue further. So, Councilwoman James, anything you'd like to expound on further before we ask that question of the mayor?
No, I think it would be good to start there.
Okay.
You know, what his thoughts are.
Yeah, so we're really right now at a fork in the road, and so I think this topic of conversation, this agenda item, is very appropriate. We either have to go out to bid in the very immediate future ourselves for a curbside pickup contract, or we have to participate with NACRA if NACRA is interested in pursuing a collective bid process for curbside pickup. So the city has utilized GFL for 19 years because 19 years ago, the city entered into a 20-year curbside collection pickup contract, which is, at least today, I don't know about 19 years ago, but it's unheard of to enter into that long of a contract for curbside garbage pickup. So it's pretty astounding that the city entered into a 20-year contract. And I think it's fair to say that there's been a lot of concern, not just on the part of those of us here at City Hall, but on the part of residents about the quality of service that has been provided by GFL. So we, although GFL would like us to extend a contract with them, I don't think, unless they offered something pretty remarkable, I don't think, I think from my perspective at least, we'd like to go out and actually see what other companies might offer in terms of price and quality of service. Again, you know, you never rule anything out if GFL comes with some amazing offer, but it would have to have some accountability mechanisms built into it because there have been a lot of concerns over quality of service. So we really need to either go out to bid ourselves or we need to do that through NACRA. And it's a little unclear, to me at least, what NACRA looks like currently. So we know one thing, that Orion Township has joined NACRA, that this NACRA authority exists, and that Orion Township has said, we want to participate with NACRA. That's my understanding. But to date, at least, no other communities have joined with Orion Township as part of NACRA. So that's the first question is, how much of a real authority or consortium involving other communities is NACRA going to be? The other question is, does Orion Township, as the current sole member of NACRA, actually want to use NACRA for the purpose of going out for a curbside collection contract? There are other authorities in Oakland County that utilize that authority for waste processing or recycling, but do not use that authority for purposes of going out and getting a contract for curbside garbage pickup. There are, I think, some potential benefits to using an authority like that for curbside pickup contracting. For one thing, the more communities that are going out to bid, the more people they represent, the more households they represent, the more buying power they should have to negotiate a good contract, both in terms of price and quality. The other thing I would note is that it's pretty clear that the other communities GFL is servicing immediately around us are, in our view at least, getting better quality and better value for their money in terms of the quality of pickup. So if we go into a contract with neighboring communities, it might help ensure better quality control as well. So I think there are potential benefits there. We're trying to get a handle on at least Orion Township. Are they interested in using NACRA for that purpose of trying to actually go out to bid for curbside collection?
Thank you, Mayor Grimo. Councilwoman James, you have the floor.
Yeah, I do agree with you that, you know, we are closing in on time, and so we really need to have this discussion. We look at, you know, it's not like this is the first looking at moving to an authority kind of a structure. It's not the first. We see this working all around us. The water, the Great Lakes Water Authority, we get our water from an authority that's made up of, 3 or 4 different communities. We've got the NOHAS situation that's 14 communities that have come together to give residents the ability to be able to dispose of hazardous waste. So this seems to me to be the future of how these things can work. Right. And I'm not saying that I'm for it, I'm against it, but I'm saying I think our residents deserve the opportunity to hear what it's about. And I don't think a lot of things are, just from what I know about it, and I was a part of the meeting that you called about it, it's an organization that I think we can, if we choose to, get in and be a part of how those decisions are made as far as what they are going to do. I think the organization is still in that stage where whatever communities decide that they're interested in joining, they would have that opportunity to structure it to their advantage. But I really think that at the very least, we need to allow the residents to hear what NACRA is, what it can offer the city, and have a discussion at that point, talk more about it.
And so, excellent. There's in Oakland County, there's SACRA, which is the South Oakland County Resource and Recycling Authority. So multiple different municipalities band together to basically be more competitive, more facilitating their recycling and different resource processing. So there, to my knowledge, isn't an existing North Oakland County Resource and Recycling Authority. It's about, would we want to be on the ground level helping launch and initiate that? Is that a correct characterization, oversimplification of it, but is that a correct characterization, Mayor Crocker?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's right. There is a legal entity called NACRA.
So Orion Township.
But it's just Orion Township right now. So effectively, it's not really an authority or a consortium at all. But there is that vehicle, that legal vehicle that exists. And so, yes, we're talking about the ground level of it. Yes.
Yeah. But it does exist.
Okay.
Already, yeah.
But yeah, so for, I think, decades, South Oakland County, from Troy all the way down, that has been able to have sort of like a concentrated or a central facility, an area that services multiple municipalities. And we'll research more what's kind of under the hood, how do they work that out. But my understanding, to the mayor's point, is it doesn't necessarily cover also their curbside trash collection. It could, but at present, I don't believe it does. So other discussion about, essentially, it's taking the temperature on behalf of the citizens. Is council receptive to pursuing or learning more and seeing the viability of that approach? From speaking as one of 7, I think that I'm very open to the possibility. I don't, there's a lot more we need to know. But I think that the mayor's intent to advocate for a more competitive, more beneficial outcome for garbage collection for residents, a better contract for our taxpayers, is fantastic. And I definitely think that residents overwhelmingly would want the administration to pursue, the best possible outcome. But they're at a point where they need to know what's the path to go as they consider those options. Pro Tem Carrington?
Well, I was going to say the same thing. I think I'm open to it. Anywhere we can have a better, more competitive process, as well as getting more bang for our buck. So I'm not against it. But with only one municipality being involved, I don't know how, at this moment, how powerful that would be to get any better leverage. So, but I'm willing to to have some more discussion concerning it.
Councilman James.
Well, what I'd like to suggest is that we take the next step to invite NACRA to come to a meeting to present what their organizational structure is, and then we can ask those questions that we have, and to just and really come to a decision on whether we want to have further discussions with them or not.
Sounds good. Councilman Goodman.
I mean, speaking for my district, I would say that everyone would be interested in learning more because, again, trying to find something that is more affordable and more reliable for the citizens is extremely important. The question I want to ask, and the mayor, you may or may not have an answer to this currently, given that NACRA is only Lake Orion, have they tried to expand to other cities in Northern Oakland County? And then the subsequent question kind of being, or comment, that, given that NACRA might be a city of one right now, it might be important for us to also see what other cities around us would be interested in joining upon multiple joining at once. But to you.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. Other communities have been approached about joining, and I shouldn't just say cities, other cities and townships have been approached about possibly joining NACRA. those that I'm aware of, at least, include Waterford, Rochester Hills, Independence Township, Bloomfield Township. Auburn Hills has not seemed particularly interested. I think they've been contacted but have not really engaged too much in the process. So the short answer is those are the communities I'm aware of who have been at least part of the conversation. And I convened a meeting here with, I think it was attended by representatives of all those communities as well. And, you know, there were different levels of interest expressed at that meeting. One of the challenges, too, of course, in terms of utilizing NACRA for purposes of going out to bid for a curbside garbage collection contract is existing curbside contracts with different communities expire at different times. That's not an insurmountable challenge. It just means that, you know, you might have to grow the participation in a curbside contract over time. You could try to negotiate sort of short-term extensions so that more of those communities can go out at the exact same time for a contract. So it's kind of a logistical challenge, but it's not something that is prohibitive to moving forward with it, but it's just something to be mindful of.
Any final discussion? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for bringing that, Councilwoman James, and sounds like we have a path forward to do a deeper dive and learn more. Okay. All right. That concludes our discussions. We now are about to take up a resolution to go into closed session, but I just want to take a privilege right now and just say, again, on behalf of the City of Pontiac and the citizens of Pontiac, welcome to our new Human Resources Director, welcome to our new Law Director, and welcome to our new Chief Assistant Clerk. Congratulations again and welcome. We'll be voting to go into closed session to consider discuss pending litigation for the City of Pontiac. For the love of God, do not, for those new hires, don't feel obligated to wait around to the conclusions of that. Community members are welcome to attend, but you're not required to remain in the chambers. But once we vote to come out of closed session, we will continue the balance of this evening's agenda, which is mainly communications, closing comments, and then adjournment. But any other housekeeping matters before we take up the item number 16? Hearing nothing further, is there a motion to adopt the resolution to go into closed session? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford and seconded by Councilwoman James that we adopt the resolution to go into closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268, subsection E, to discuss pending litigation, Katz v. City of Pontiac. All right, any discussion before us? The resolution, the motion includes it, but the resolution does as well. It highlights where in Michigan case law in the Open Meetings Act that the City Council is permitted to move into closed session for this purpose. Hearing no further discussion, roll call and adoption of the resolution to go into closed session. Clerk Doyle.
Rutherford? Yes. Carrington?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We have moved to go into closed session at 9:21 p.m.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Sorry.
Lord. Oh, here one right here.
And I thank you so much. I'll give you a call. We're trying to get the turkeys by the 13th.
Okay. Just let me know, because I'll forget. Like I say, I'm old.
I know.
I don't remember a lot.
I just want you to donate some turkeys to New Spring.
All right, is there a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Support. It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Goodman, that we come out of closed session. Roll call on that motion. Clerk Doyle.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. We have come out of closed session at 9:44 p.m. We are now at City Council, public communications, specifically from City Council. This Saturday, the 4th of November, is the Identify Your Dream Foundation Bow Ties and Jeans fundraiser. On Monday, November 6th, it's the Pontiac District 4 Community Council meeting and holiday celebration. On Thursday, November 9th, is the Pontiac District 5 Next Citizens Council meeting. Friday, November 10th, the Dirk Kroll Band, a Pontiac band, is playing at Pontiac Little Art Theater. On Saturday, November 11th, Mr. Maxey shared that there will be a Veterans Day parade. Also Saturday, November 11th, the Oakland History Center and the Pontiac Creative Arts Center has a gala auction on the 11th. And then on November 13th, Pontiac District 7 has their East Side Community Meeting at Prospect Church. So you'll hear a little bit more, but we just want to give you at least the City Council communications for those happening in the next few days before and near our next City Council meeting. Now, Mayor's Office, your communications.
Well, in the interest of time, just a quick note, and I've mentioned this at past meetings as well, that this year's Holiday Extravaganza Parade will be on Saturday, December 2nd, and there will be 2 additional activities that day. There'll be a fun run called the Elf Run that morning at 8 a.m., and then there'll be a Winter Festival in downtown Pontiac from noon until 3 p.m. So we really encourage people to come out, not just for the Holiday Extravaganza Parade, but to stick around afterwards for the Winter Festival downtown. And then for those fitness fanatics out there, I'm not one of them, but for those of you who are fitness fanatics, you can participate in the fun run at 8 a.m. that morning as well.
Clerk's Office, communications.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2. Just a reminder to all Pontiac residents, there will not be an election in the city of Pontiac on this upcoming Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. And the Local Officers Compensation Commission will hold its next meeting on Monday, November 6th at 6 p.m. right here in the City Council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now to closing comments. Mayor Grimley, you have the floor.
Well, in the interest of time, I did just want to quickly clarify a couple pieces of misinformation that a member of the public shared. And it was the same member of the public who said, we need flock cameras across the city. Well, we do have flock cameras across the city, so that's item number 1. And then item number 2 is I believe he referenced the street sweepers costing $2 million. The 2 of them together in total cost approximately $1 million, just to be clear. And as I said, one of them has been working fine once we got it, but because of supply chain problems, we didn't get it until a month and a half ago. The other street sweeper did have a number of problems, but they were covered under warranty. And now we have both street sweepers out on the streets, and we are optimistic that we will get to every street in the city before wintertime.
Thank you. Clerk Doyle, any closing comments?
I just want to thank the city attorney for clarifying for the public that the clerk's office did go through the petitions as it related to the Mark Twain project thoroughly. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. City council members, Councilman Parker, closing comments?
Thank you, Brother President, but I don't have any comments this evening. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you. Councilwoman James, closing comments?
Yes, my District 4 Community Council meeting will take place this coming Monday, November the 6th at 5:30 p.m. This is our final meeting of the year. We're calling it our community meeting and holiday celebration. We will be serving a delicious soul food meal, so I hope to see as many people as we can. The public is invited. Again, it's at 5:30 at the New Mount Moriah International Church that's located at 313 Walton Boulevard, right across from the Dollar Tree store. Our special guests will be State Representative Brenda Carter, Mayor Tim Grimo, Code Enforcement Manager Jack McIntyre, and our community policing team, Sergeant Thurko. Again, we'll have great food, great conversation, so we hope to see everyone out. Thank you.
Okay. Pro Tem Carrington?
No comments tonight.
Councilman Goodman?
I just want to thank my residents for coming out to the last district meeting to hear about the progress happening in the city and my district, and also letting people know that I am looking into the construction that is on Monticello. But with that, I will say good night.
Okay. Councilman Rutherford?
The greatness of a community is more accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. That was said by Coretta Scott King. What I love about District 1 is that they're brutally honest, and when correction is needed, they make it to be known. So much that on our October the 28th meeting, we did a survey. And the survey was, I'm going to read it to you. Councilwoman Rutherford wants to hear from you. Please complete the following anonymous survey to inform me how I can best improve my performance with the district representation, as well as the city council and the mayor and the city. What I did was I asked on a scale to 1 to 5. The results will be read next week. But for a moment, I want to comment on a couple of things. I want to first name the 54 people who came to my meeting. Ellen Harris, I thank you. Tanae Smith, I thank you. Kenyatta Bowman, I thank you. Peter Whitaker, I thank you. Autumn Campbell, I thank you. Veronica Taylor, I thank you. Bertha Thomas, I thank you. Josephine Patterson, I thank you. Marilyn Mahone, I thank you. Tanya Jenkins, I thank you. Marion Scott, I thank you. Tammy Young, I thank you. Deborah Younger, I thank you. Vicky Bray Tourette, Richard Harrison, John Bridges, Quincy Stewart, Ananda Bell, Claudia Buckley, Tim Grimo, Sheet Hrotz, Tanisha Taylor, Carla Taylor, Jessica Woods, Juan Jerez, Amy Holt, Robert Bass, Josie Bird, Stephanie Nixon, Greg Buscavelli, Lauren Bishop, Lisa Bishop, Ernestine McCall, Mrs. Adeline Cornerstone, Dolores Stevens, Rosalind Northcross, Chris Northcross, Sonia May, Ivan Brown, Josh Logan, Patrice Spencer, Sonia LaDuff Malone, Jacob Walker, Brian Killian, and last but certainly not least, Pastor John Tober. I think it's important that we paint the real narrative about what actually happens in District 1. When we have issues, we meet, we talk, we discuss. I try to attend at least 90% of the meetings that happen in my district because I want to hear from them. Some of the questions was my performance, city council performance, Mayor Grimo performance, city services, and what are 3 ways I can improve. And this is how you change the narrative. You don't get in the muck and get messy. You don't make it personal when it doesn't have to be. You just ask what they think needs to be done. You don't cause division, you cause inclusiveness. And that's why I named those 54 people. The other thing is I do hustle. I hustle for my district. I hustle for other people in my community. I hustle so much that I've been able to get 900 coats for people in the city of Pontiac. I have some of them I want to show you right now. Hold on. Here's one. This was donated along with the 20 other ones by Rosa Randolph, who is a lifelong East Sider / South Sider Black business owner who understands what we're trying to do. I also got 400 turkeys so that not only are they going to be in my district, but other council members can provide in their community because I hustle. I will never apologize for asking for assistance. If it offends you, maybe you should hustle too, because hustling brings results. My hustle is what got me where I'm at. My hustle is why my daughter graduated with a 0 balance at Howard University. My hustle is the reason why my daughter is now at North Carolina Central with a 0 balance as well. My hustle is the reason why when women are homeless or men have homeless and can't get in hotels, I make sure they get it done because that is my job. And it's not hustling. It's called being resourceful because I'm a hustler, homer. Ask about me. That was by Jay-Z. Last but certainly not least, On November the 18th, and this is displayed in Kermit Presents, we are having our District 1 coat drive. But I have more than enough coats to not just only provide for my district, but other council members because I hustle. I want to thank everybody who attends my meetings. I want to thank you for the emails. I want to thank you for the correspondence. But mostly, I want to thank for the people who sometimes don't understand my methods and my ways don't always have to be your methods and ways. But what you can never say is that I don't take care of my district. And what you can never say is that I don't listen to my district. And lastly, but certainly not least, I want to thank Ms. Sand, who took the opportunity tonight to actually have a candid conversation with me, who took the opportunity to say, because the Bible says if you have an ought against your brother, you have to go to your brother. And what would happen if people would use opportunities instead of causing friction, making up rumors, and lying, came and said, this is the issue. Until people are willing to have those candid conversations, all I can say is I'm going to keep on hustling for the city of Pontiac. I'm going to hustle for my district, and I'm going to hustle for everybody that asks me for help. And to that I say, God bless you, and God keep you, and God put his hands upon you, and may he give you peace, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike McGinnis, District 7's councilperson. I want to express the council's relief, the District 7 relief, that the street lights are again operational for Martin Luther King from M59 to Auburn. That was a really challenging situation, so I'm grateful that the parts finally came in and that they are operational once more. We, of course, have our monthly district meeting coming up in a few weeks. It's the second Monday of the month. This month would be November 13th. You heard me make a few other announcements during the course of this meeting, so for the sake of time, I won't reiterate it, but thank you again to the City Council staff who's been working very hard and put a lot of time into the Pride and Beautification Awards reception. That was a very successful offering. So for the sake of time, is there a motion to adjourn this evening?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Pro Tem Carrington, that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no further discussion, roll call and adjournment. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Absolutely, yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
All right, we stand adjourned at 9:56 p.m.